volatility that characterize the policies of our government, the non-availability of adequate infrastructures, and most debilitating, the absence of a proper work ethics, coupled with a high degree of competence of the manpower available. We have tried to overcome this last challenge by organizing various training programs, regular brainstorming and feedback sessions, and by developing a clearly defined and well-documented work process. The federal government ban on importation of furniture will have constituted a challenge to us, but ban or no ban, we have always been a manufacturing company. Have our spouses been supportive in the business? I would say a big yes. When Moni and I started our business, we were both spinsters, though we were then in relationships with our future mates. Both our spouses have turned out to be our major assets, pillars of strength and encouragement. They are sources of inspiration and literally the wind beneath our collective wings. Nothing is too little or too great for them to do for us in the realization of our dreams. They have been our biggest networks, sources of referrals, our PR, machinery, and even our articulators in periods when the going got a little taut. Without them, we can honestly say design opinions will not be where it is today. I have had various mentors along the way, both personal and in business. One of my greatest mentors, apart from my husband and my father, is Mustafola Adiola. I admire his vision in establishing GT Bank, his relationship with his partner, and his exit strategy. I have at various times gone to him for advice, and the solution he proffered has been invaluable. Other mentors and models who have had a great influence on my business and personal life are Dr. Christopher Kolade and his wife, Beatrice. My father started me on the road of entrepreneurship. He taught me the principles of break-even analysis at the tender age of 12. He also taught me the invaluable lesson of God's will in business. To me, goodwill is the greatest asset any business concern can have. From day one, we have made that our watchword at Design Options, our world is our bond. One core value systems in Design Options is a road map that leads to the pride we have in our good name. In Design Options, honestly, quality, innovation, commitment, timeliness, consistency, and team spirit are the hallmark of our operations and dealings. The bottom line is that our customers over the years can rely on us to deliver often over and beyond their greatest expectation. This is our 20th year in business. As we celebrate our 20th anniversary, our focus is geared strongly towards the fine-tuning and implementation of the executive management structure that we have been actively putting in place over the past 5 years as a prelude to handing over. Both of us, along with our staff team of 120, have worked along very hard to create the brand that is Design Options. We would like our name to be synonymous with beautiful and innovative interiors and executive and well-manufactured international standard furniture. Personally, I would like to be remembered as a Nigerian woman who made a difference. Major updates between 2006 and 2014. Major updates. I turned 50 in May 2010, and I have never felt better. The outpouring of love and appreciation from my family and friends, my staff and contemporaries was overwhelming and extremely humbling. I became the 2010 recipient of the prestigious International Women's Entrepreneurial Challenge Awards later that year, which was an extraordinary moment for me. It was such a rewarding and inspiring experience. There have been many changes in my business. In April of 2012, after almost 25 years of the helm of affairs in my furniture company Design Options, the partnership was dissolved and the company was wound up. Immediately went on to set up DO11 Designs Limited, a company whose core business remains the same as Design Options, but the slightly different direction and focus. In our first day, DO2 emerged as the winner of the Interior Designers Excellence Awards for Best Residential Designer 2012. That was quite a year. That same year, I suffered the loss of my doting father-in-law and my dear mother, factors responsible for success or failure. I do not believe there have been any failures, but I know there are lessons that have been learned. Everything in life happens for a reason, and there is a season for everything. My highs and lows have made me stronger, and I am all the better for it. For every success I have been blessed, I give all the glory to God. Change, success, and growth management. Change is inevitable. I have learned to embrace change and implement the process necessary to ensure that the changes in my life and in my business are positive. The company has experienced major growth in the last couple of years, and in order to maintain that growth, we have had to be innovative in our recruitment, use of technology, and our marketing communications. We have worked hard to ensure that we establish and implement policies and procedures company-wide, and we are constantly reinvesting in our team. Any success we have achieved in this short time has only inspired us to do even better. Positive changes in business model and processes. Though our current showroom remains at the same location on 2292C, Ajose and Ogun Street, Victoria Island, Lagos. Do2 has a fresh take on what I had done previously. Do2's product offering go beyond residential interiors to purposely tailored designs and creations for the corporation and hospitality sectors. It is our vision to be the first choice for high-quality furniture and interior design solutions in sub-Saharan Africa. At Do2, we stay focused on our clients' needs. That is, the motivation behind our product development and commitment to understand service. We are detailed, attentive, and thorough. We always go the extra mile to ensure that we have a happy and satisfied client. We take full responsibility. We meet the challenges. We are forward-thinking and we make it work. In Do2, we have been able to formalize our company structure and its processes, thus enabling the company to run in a more manner than its predecessors. We have a strong policy on resource, training, and empowerment, which has already begun to show dividends. Handling challenges. The major challenge has to be the transition from Design Options to Do2 Designs, evolving from being a well-known name in the industry to adopting a completely new brand name. Being in a way the new kid on the block, I must say, being the new kid has its advantages. It has allowed us to approach the same old and exciting dance steps, but it's a wealth experience behind our moves. Do2 has gotten off an impressive start. We have been blessed with loyal and enduring clients, including a vast majority of the old clients who continue to believe in the Do2 team and continue to support our business, as well as an awe-inspiring stream of new partners. What is life without challenges? There have been and will continue to be challenged, starting from the difficulty in accessing to the much needed finance for the continuous growth of the business, to the ever-increasing human resource and manpower issues. Let us not also forget the lack of inability of power from our national grid. Life and business lessons learned in the last 6 years. There have been new lessons learned, and there have been a better sharing of the existing. I have learned that God has a purpose for every one of us. We all must dig deep and pray that we find what it is before it is too late. By putting God first and listening for his voice, one finds that all else inadvertently falls into place. I have learned the importance of people, be they are your team, colleagues, or members of your family. I have always been strong on family, and the older I got, the more convinced I am that people make me the world go round. I believe one should first be true to self, live with your conscience, and listen to your inner voice. For business lessons, I can say that I have learned today to hold on my dream and my passion, not to be afraid of change with all as well as all I know is difficult to accomplish the older one gets. There is a lot of new talent in the industry, highly creative, resourceful, and fastly ambitious. These new talents coming up challenges me to remain innovative. People's propels me to continue finding new ways to improve so that my company remains relevant and I can continue to inspire those coming behind. Sponsor role. My husband has been a pillar of support and encouragement. I will not be where I am today without God and my husband. He is the wind beneath of my wings. 5. The person. Kofo Akingube, Skill ID and Interference Technology, Managing Director. Background. I grew up in a large family of 10 children. Education was a vital point in our upbringing, which made my siblings and I grow up to be quiet, studious, and determined for academic success. As a timid yet ambitious child, I found it somehow difficult to express my dreams and aspirations to people. So I carried along in life with a lot of passion and ideas hidden inside me. Thanks to my upbringing, I learned very early in life that God was my source and my true friend. So it was quite easy for me to place my trust in Him. And I must say that He has never failed, as as I have seen the results of trusting Him every step of the way. And this has caused my confidence to grow and led me to the conclusion that there is no high I cannot attain. When I look in retrospect, I discovered that I have not been someone who joins the bandwagon. On the contrary, I have always found myself doing the not so popular. For instance, this can be seen in my choice to study mathematics at the university, or my choosing to operate in an industry that is ostensibly male dominated, among other similar choices I had made. I am a graduate of mathematics, and after my youth service corps, I started my working career in the banking industry, where I remained for over 12 years until I left to start Interface Technologies, a security management and biometrics technologies company. My leaving the banking industry was a major step towards pursuing my gut feeling that there is more out there. While in the bank, I had taken 1 year break to do an MBA program. But upon my return to the bank, I suddenly felt dissatisfied with the system and work became more routine to me. I therefore consider it unfair on the bank for me to continue working there, as I felt I was no longer adding my any value, so I decided to design in order to search for my passion. Adding to my restlessness then was the fact that I found the banking industry to be focused more on the domestic market and pay for 3 months. But during that period, I went all out to seek information, mentors, networking, and possible areas of interest that will appeal to my interests. I really had no plan to become an entrepreneur and basically had an open mind to whatever direction God was going to let me. After 3 months of soul searching and research, an idea came to me to go into biometrics technology, which was an untapped section in the country then. I then set up Interface Technologies Limited and ran it for 9 years. It was a period of fun and many achievements, which culminated in the birth of Skill ID Nigeria Limited, an offshoot from a small department in Interface Technologies. Having run Interface Technologies on an entrepreneurial level, my dream was to establish a structured organization that will operate it in the international global market, ITL. ITL had a card unit, which today is now a card manufacturing personalization company, Skill ID. I had a dream to set up a world-class smart card plant that can operate internationally. During the setting up process, the first thing I had was to draw up a business plan. And with the help of a business consultant, I drew up a roadmap timeline that will serve as my guide to attaining predetermined milestones as well as measure my progress in the process. Because of the high capital outlay requirements of my project, I approached individuals whom I felt would only invest their funds, but will also add value towards the success of the company. And the choices of these individuals were prayerfully and carefully made. It was clear to me where Skill ID was heading. I had a mental picture of this dream all the time. I wanted it to be a world-class concern in the global smart card market. To achieve this end, it is ideal for us to have certifications like Visa, similar to ISO and others. So we immediately set out to apply for the Visa certification, and against all odds, we got the certification. Today, to the glory of God, after just 2 years in operation, we are the first Visa certified plant in sub-Saharan Africa. Of course, there were many challenges. A vision goes through an incubation period before birth. My first challenge was combining my roles as a wife and a mother with going after my business goals. I also had to deal with different issues in the business world that I hadn't even imagined before. There were many negative voices and very difficult circumstances that seemed insurmountable. But despite all, we got our certification in record time. Some of the negative and discouraging things I was told were, it could take 2 years to get a visa certification. You cannot get it on the first review. You need X amount of money to get a company ready for certification. Nigeria is high risk. There is high level of fraud, post press, etc. Being a strong believer in the role of a woman, both in the home and towards her husband, I try to carry my spouse along to every stage of my business. I am first his wife before the entrepreneur. My husband is a director of Skill ID, and he has been greatly supportive towards the success of the company. He gives invaluable advice to me, and he is someone I regularly bounce off ideas on. I believe the blessing and support of a spouse is important for entrepreneurial success. Peace in the home gives you a clear vision and makes it a lot of easier for you to take logical and correct decisions. A home without peace will delay the actualization of your dream as a woman. Also, it is good to have someone that will always tell you the bitter truth when you are going off back. My simple advice to every woman who wants to pursue entrepreneurship is that chasing your dreams should not be at the neglect of your spouse. My business role is Mrs. Ibukun Aosika. I simply admired her strong entrepreneurial skills and her passion for and generosity to the works of the world. I find the fact that she is not a woman with a husband and children just like me, coupled with so many achievements behind her tail, quiet and daring. My value system is benchmarked on the wall of God. Whatever I am doing, I always ask myself, will it please God? Is my management style pleasing to Him? I am also a stickler for a high level of professional conduct in business. To me, professionalism is very important. The effect of my value system on my business has been the success we have today. I have learned a long time ago that when God is our spouse, is your source, the success you experience will be far greater than the success that comes from human effort, hard work, etc. And I would rather have than than my intelligence and efforts could fetch me. Growth challenges will always exist in my business. They could be the people or building the right team. We have our fair share of them, but as they come, God has been helping us to overcome them and forge ahead. My dream is still ongoing. I cannot say that I am yet there. I am there yet. I still have a lot more to learn and to achieve. My exit strategy is to build a legacy of a business that will attract the best managers worldwide who will take over from me one day, continue from where I stop, and move the company a greater height. At the end of my days, I would like to be remembered for making a positive impact in people's lives. Major updates between 2006 and 2014. Updates. By 2008, my company, Skill ID, had established itself as market leader. At that time, we were the only organization with a global-oriented smart card plant in the country. This meant we were enjoying a monopoly, and that was very good for us, business-wise. The same year, the Central Bank of Nigeria issued a directive requiring all banks in Nigeria to migrate from Mark Street cards to chip-based cards. This policy truly favored us because in 2006, we had invested in the future by opening a chip personalization plant. So the calculated risks we took in 2006 paid off in 2008. This suggests that an entrepreneur needs to see beyond the market today and envision the future. We were the only ones that could do it, so the entire market was at our doorstep. But we had to be careful to avoid becoming complacent and build a culture that will sustain the company, even in the face of competition. So one thing that I always stress to my team and colleagues is that even when we do not have competition, we need to compete with ourselves. That year, we worked even harder to ensure that we put in standards that will be difficult for newcomers to beat. Factors responsible for success. It has been a very long journey. In terms of successes, I guess what has pushed us is the passion and doggedness in pursuing the dream and vision with a can-do approach. Never giving up, even in the failures. We learn from them and move on. The foundation of this vision is to leave a legacy. We have successfully been able to imbibe the culture in everyone. There were definitely a lot of trials and failures, a lot of pain, and a lot of frustration. I must say that not all things went the way we wanted them to, but the good thing in life is the opportunity to learn from those failures and use them to move ahead, because even competitors and people coming behind will also experience their own challenges and setbacks. New lines to the business. What has kept our business thriving is innovation. We live on creating new lines. We actually do not have a choice, and one of the principles that I work with is to ensure that we never get too comfortable with whatever model we are using. We have always looked at how we can improve, how we can do this better. Therefore, each process is looked at, and we ask, how can this process be made smoother? How can we do things right the first time? How can we do things better? With that in mind, you don't have a choice but to be innovative. When we set out in 2005 and started operations in 2006, We wanted to be an end to smart card manufacturing plant, but we knew it was not something that will be built in a day. It was going to take a couple of years. And so we started from the end of the process and kept backwards integrating, and each backwards integration meant more local content, more of the processes and products being manufactured locally, which meant more employment, more training, more strategic retreats, and at the end of the day, better value of the market. So the entire plan that we have made to the glory of God. Yes, there have been delays here and there, but we have kept to the plan. And along the value chain of making a smart card, the new line that we have added is the backwards integration. And today, we are concluding the very end of the process, managing growth and people. Sometimes I call it a wilderness experience. You will have thought that if a company is growing, then employee issues will get easier, but it gets more complex. Coping with growth and success is mentally and time consuming, because I think it is more difficult to sustain success than to actually grow into that success. And at each level of our growth, a lot of things have had to change, like the way we work on our processes. For example, migrating from a manual process to an automated process. You tend to find out that some of the staff that started with you are not able to cope with the higher level that the company is operating. So there is a lot of decision making, a lot of restrategizing, but the important thing and the key to success is to be able to identify the points of the stages at which you need to re-strategize, because some of the strategies that you have cannot work for certain levels that you grow to. This has really been a major challenge, but with the passion and with a view to leaving a legacy, it has been extremely fulfilling. Challenges in business model. It is almost like I grew 50 years older in a very short space of time. You tend to change your outlook to life. As a woman, you become less emotional and more logical towards meeting the goal that has been set. Your entire character changes. You are more accommodating of people's strengths and weakness. And you also become wiser in using the weakness and strengths that they have to help the organization. Therefore, for me, it has been a period of self-development. I have had to mature as a leader and as a mentor. Challenges encountered. Being a visionary is a lonely place to be, extremely lonely, and it takes the love of God to find people that can even see a bit of what you are seeing. I have seen blessed with such a team, but even then, it's been an ongoing exercise, because as an entrepreneur, it is not people's dream, but your dream. And sometimes having to make that dream everybody's dream needs a lot of patience and tolerance. I think that the challenge of working to come up with an excellent team internally was more than the challenge of external factors like competition. Because having enjoyed a monopoly and have competition come up after a few years, we have learned that we do things the right ways. If we are efficient in our processes and the delivery of services to our customers, and if we are creative and innovative about how we do things better, competitions become almost irrelevant. Life lessons. I like the impact it has made on me as a person. I also like the fact that it has strengthened me, because along the way, and we are still growing, you go through some good and some painful experiences that will come at you from any angle, and if you don't have a conviction about your dreams, some of these experiences may cause you to give up. But being the passionate person that I am, and knowing that my dream is God's given, has improved me, both in career, and in my personal life, despite the hurdles I faced. Business lessons. Note that Not every strategy or every method you have applied works for every level or stage that the company is at. There is always a need to go back and rethink. It is very important that you review what you do, how you do it, and how to make it better. It is important that you have a clear roadmap as to where you are going. It is also important that you take time to recruit the right people. Depending on the stage which the company is at, you may need to employ expertise from different consulting firms with business if you stay focused and there is a constant connection between you and the rest of your team, in the sense that they themselves know where the company is going. They themselves craft out the roadmap. It's almost impossible that the company will fail. The greatest asset any company can have is the staff to staff the team. Once the dream is there, then it's working to get a real great team that's next. In Skill ID, ours is to ensure that we are always ahead of the game. It's in your DNA in Skill ID to always change the game. We start something and the others follow, and we tend to have that boldness and can-do spirit to make it work. We do things that have never been done in the space in which we work in or in the space in which we belong. You need boldness to take steps that no one has taken before. And one thing for sure is that you will always meet obstacles. But how you address those obstacles is what is key. It is also important that you find mentors or experienced people to talk at every stage of growth at the company. There is no business that cannot become an empire, but it takes a lot of faith, a lot of persistence, doggedness, and a lot of prayer. Realize that God has the ultimate wisdom and His roadmap is the best, and He can help you and take you to your promised land in a shorter space of time than you ever imagined. So my advice will be reckon with Him and to try and get the advice or wisdom that you require from the Almighty. Family. My husband is also a serial entrepreneur. He is extremely supportive, and even when you feel you have gotten to the end of the road, he's always there to remind you that you still have to work to do. He is very encouraging. He has encouraged the business and has accommodated me as an entrepreneur, a wife, and a mother. With that, I'm able to focus on my passion. Value system. Our value system has always been based on very high and godly principles. And over time, I've realized when we deviate from that, there are major consequences, and sometimes God wants us to learn from our mistakes. So there's just no compromise, especially when you are seeking to leave a legacy and building a transgenerational business. People are watching, and you had better ensure that they watch that what is good. So I have learned over time that high godly principles or doing business God's way is not to be compromised. In summary, our value systems have not changed. Business advice to young entrepreneurs. My advice to a young lady coming out of school will be to try to get a job if possible, so she can learn how to work in structured environment. I did that for 12 years before I ventured into entrepreneurship, and I think that really helps a lot. However, I know that in some cases, employment may be difficult, and so I just say to get the right education if possible. I will also advise that you find the right mentor that will guide you from stage to stage. But my advice is also that a business does not become an empire overnight, and there are phases to patiently go through and that teach you valuable lessons that no man can teach. There will be obstacles. So the important thing is that she should need to be patient with the growth and just enjoy every stage of the growth and continually try and improve every stage. Whoever is going this route should also be prayerful, because the business terrain is a real battlefield. My advice will also be for her to think big. Have a very big picture. Don't think of what you can achieve today, but think of what generations after you can enjoy from what you are starting up. My advice is that you look at your business as an entity that will add value to people's life, not for amassing money for yourself, but to look at the business as a mystery, one that does not just provide food for people's table and for families, but also one that teaches right living and builds characters. How was government policy has affected business? If you are in a business that is adding value to the community, government policy, if it is the right thinking government, should always favor that cause. The policy has always favored us, but bear in mind that a business is not successful because of government policy. As long as you are doing business that adds value to the system, government policy or not government policy, it will succeed regardless. You government policy could sometimes slow down the pace of business. You should have a global vision even though you are a local player and not depend on government policy to help you to be successful, because if that dependence is there on government policy, you may not have the necessary improvement that you need to make. So if you have a vision and you want to be an entity that can play in the global market and compete the players in the global market, I do not think that government policy should be your basis. Government policy can help you to grow faster and you ever dreamt of. However, what will sustain that business will depend on how the business is run. As an entrepreneur, never feel comfortable where you are. Keep moving forward. Keep setting a high standard for yourself. Keep raising the bar. Never give up. Those are the things that matter. They matter more than government policies. What will keep people coming to you is the quality of your service and operations. And that is why we entrepreneurs need to see ourselves as global players. That is why you need to dream big, but know that it takes time and that at every stage of it, there are good lessons learned. If each Nigerian will think like that, the quality of life will definitely improve. If someone is asked to repair the roads and they do it properly because of their principles, then you know that you are driving on a good road. But if people always cut corners, take shortcuts, and so forth, then that doesn't help. So let's do things right. Let's do things properly. And that is how the Western world has helped themselves, and that's how we will grow. So wearing the cap of an entrepreneur goes beyond profit. Yes, of course, profit is good. It goes beyond getting rich and wealthy. It's a service. See it as a service. Money, Fabemi. 6. The person. Name, Money Fabemi. Business, design options. Post, director partner. Industry, furniture. Background. I grew up at Ilepeju in an almost all-girls family in the mid-1960s. I am the second of 3 sisters and 1 brother, with just a year age difference among we girls. We are popularly called the Omidiji girls everywhere we went. Ours was an extremely happy home with lots of fights, laughs, and sharing among one another. My dad was a very strict person, and we used to disappear whenever we had the sound of his car driving into the compound from work. After my O-levels here in Nigeria, our parents decided to send my sister and I to England for some international exposures. It was a bit difficult being away from home for the first time in my entire 16 years. However, we all ended up in the same school, Kent College for Girls at Pembrey, Tonbridge, which also happens to be my mom's alma mater between 1952 and 1956. After 2 years, on completing out our A-levels, we returned to Lagos to the prestigious University of Lagos and stayed in the famous, interesting, but crazy Moremi Hall. We didn't really mind having to return home for tertiary education so much because it was a good university and all our friends were returning home as well. At this stage, I personally had no idea as to what I wanted to do with my life or what was in store for me. Nevertheless, I ended up doing a 3-year course in social science, which I considered extremely boring throughout my time there. After graduation, I still had a clue about what I really wanted to do career-wise. So I decided to follow the general orthodox of the time into the banking industry. I started my banking job at the prestigious Chase Bank on Awolowo Road, Ikoyi. However, 1 year in the banking industry killed me of my banking dreams for life and indeed of any dead-end 9-to-5 job. Still searching for what to do that will catch my passion, I wandered accidentally into furniture and interior design. I got a job at Casafina, and it was there that my passion for furniture was ignited. I spent 1 year at the company honing my skills and generally preparing myself. After that, I left the place to set up design options in 1987 with my friend and colleague Ifiniwa Iradola and the rest, as they say in his history. Ifeniwa and I clicked right from the beginning. I loved her enthusiasm and drive. In addition, she was focused and had run her parents' interior design business in Enugu before coming to Lagos. We realized that we both had a passion for creative furniture and a good eye for interiors. So relating together on the job became a breeze. We also realized that people believe in us and our ideas, and were willing to trust us with their houses, offices, projects, etc. This was the motivation we need to put our own team of carpenters, upholsters, and handymen together and establish a first-rate company. It is particularly interesting to note that most of the workers we started with 20 years ago are still with us today, and we have been very much a part of their lives, their marriages, their childbirths, their careers paths, etc. It is usually interesting to note that when we started design options, there were not many young ladies who had our looks and poise, articulate, confident, stylish, and doing what we are doing. I personally encountered numerous problems with men who thought they were entitled to more than the furniture they were paying for. However, I found the following helpful to get over that. Firstly, the fact that I was married helped a lot, as people still respected the institutions of marriage in those days, in the 90s. Secondly, having an exposed and confident spouse who was financially stable and who shared my passion and respected my talent was another saving grace. And finally, I had a vision and a clearly defined roadmap to getting there. This helped me to know what to do and what not to do. By this time, I was also raising 3 very active boys at home. As a hands-on parent, I had to create a balance between my home life and my business so that the husband does not start to resent the business. Creating that balance was work in itself. It helped, however, to have my mother, sisters, and in-laws that I could call on at short notice for assistance, especially when I needed to travel for international fairs and exhibitions. Growing up under a very strict as a father laid the platform for a life of meticulous planning and detail for me. My father never left anything to chance. My mother, on the contrary, was the opposite. In this regard, I find that I possess my father's strict discipline about money matters, budget, and timekeeping, but not his rigidity when it comes to stubbornly sticking to the script regardless of whose ox is caught in the process. I like my mom's playfulness and her whatever may be approach to life. She is happy and content, always looking at the bigger and brighter picture, very accommodating and easy to get along with. I hope I have imbibed all of these qualities as well. It was my mom who taught me to fear of God, regardless of who is watching or not. She also taught me to be honest and truthful regardless of personal loss or gain, be it to, be it to a friend or foe. I always bring that to play in my business. Clients are amazed when I refund money to them because I had erroneously overcharged them and they were not even aware. My customers appreciate that I tell them the truth, regardless of whether it will cost me the sale or not. And even when it is obvious that they caused the error due to their own negligence. I am still willing to correct it at any cost because a good interior speaks more than 1,000 words or explanation. I would say my business really took off in the late 1990s, come early 2000. Nigerians began to appreciate the benefits of coming home and going to work in a beautiful, well laid out and an enabling environment then. Everything they were traveling abroad to buy will now be manufactured locally. And since people's taste had improved because of international exposure, they were now ready to commit their money to tried and trusted hands to take the stress of them. In fact, the dynamics of the world economy was changing and becoming more international in orientation. Having said that much about growth, I must also mention that the government really did nothing to encourage the private sector and aspiring young Nigerian entrepreneurs. The necessary infrastructures were lacking. Policies to strengthen the private small and medium-scale enterprises were non-existent. Strategically, government did not provide leadership or guidance to financial institutions to support growth. So we were really on our own to fathom a way out of the hellhole. The fact that we have succeeded is a testament to the strength of the organized private sector that continues to contribute to the growth of the Nigerian economy. In my 20 years in business, the question I get asked often is the secret behind my successful partnership with Ife Yinwa. The answer is so simple. It is trust. Do we have a cat fight? Yes, we surely do, especially more so as we get older and more set in our ways. But the truth is that we love each other dearly and value our friendship and the individuality that each person brings to be the table that creates the unique blend of our company. Furthermore, we could also go the extra mile of bringing in a third party that we both respect and admire if we reach a deadlock. Two, for conflict resolution. The truth is that conflict will always arise where two people are involved. My advice is to agree to a blueprint for conflict resolution when entering any partnership and go along with someone you like, who shares your passion, drive. Go with your good feeling and don't be afraid to try. One of my most memorable experiences in my running of our factory was about 10 years ago when my staff decided to down tools and declared a strike. I had seen it coming, as I have already noticed some bad eggs in our recent recruitment exercise. The rabble rousers were always seen motoring under their breaths and flexing. I regret not nipping them in a bud earlier and firing them immediately. As it turned out, I called out my workshop floor manager and foreman, whom I had started out with from the scratch, and told them in no uncertain terms that I will shut down the factory, sack them all, and return to gardening if they think they could hold me to ransom. Then I entered my car and drove away, telling them to call me in my comfortable house when they were ready to work. That ended the mutiny. I stood my ground and called their bluff despite the huge outstanding deliveries we had at hand. And that was the end of that forever, I pray. I realized that day that intentions was not strength while workers are concerned. The manner you are, the more respect you get. Being nice is regarded as a weakness, especially in a male-dominated environment. Another experience I will never forget that had a more profound effect on me happened one day when a client I admired from the pages of newspapers called me to furnish his country home. This was a big man by anybody's standards with huge interest in oil, banking, telecom, manufacturing, etc. The work was at the finishing stages when I called him to discuss outstanding sums, and I was asked to see him in his office. I was sitting across the desk from him when, lo and behold, he suddenly leapt across his desk and launched at me, trying to grab or kiss or whatever. To my utmost surprise and embarrassment, in shock, and I shouted at him, "Chairman, sir, what is the meaning of this?" I was shaking like a leaf and I demanded an apology, which he refused to tender. So I walked out of his office. To this day, I cannot reconcile that incident act with the person I thought as a respectable citizen with so many titles, including the commander of the Order of the Niger. I never told my husband because I secretly blamed myself for being so naive, but I learned an invaluable lesson that day. Never meet a male client alone, even in his office, and never judge a book by its cover or by your own standards. 5 years ago, I woke up one day and realized that I had been so busy developing the design option brand and raising a family and had totally forgotten about me. I took stock of my life and realized that there was no me in my agenda for self-development, no time to excel or even spread my wings and explore other talents and dreams. I figured it was time for me to get my groove back. That year, I enrolled into the Lagos Business School and joined the Honors Managers Program, OMP2. Capital that I will find the time to attend and complete the course. It was an eye-opener for me, being in a class with successful owner managers from various backgrounds, sharing ideas and learning from seasoned professionals. For the first time in 10 years, I was in a classroom putting formulas to processes I had been running for years, processes that needed definition and fine-tuning. This experience encouraged me to apply to another business school in Barcelona, Spain for a program organized by the LBS. But I was so disappointed about the way my enrollment was handled that I got there and demanded for a full refund of my money. However, regardless of the challenge we had faced and are still facing in business, we have managed to remain at the forefront of the interior decorating business. And we have worked this year more than ever before on strengthening our number one position in the marketplace by fine-tuning our processes and procedures so as to leave a lasting legacy to the new generation of professional architects, decorators, and other artisans to take this company to greater heights. Muni Shonibare. 7. The person. Name, Muni Shonibare. Business, Etsinki Limited Interiors Options. Post, Managing Director, Industry, Furniture. Background, my name is Muni Shonibare. I am the first child in a family of 8 children. My father was a diplomat, so we traveled quite extensively in my family and were thus exposed to very diverse people and cultures. This created a keen awareness of the uniqueness of every individual in our minds. We therefore grew up to respect other people's right to individuality, religions, norms, and cultures. I graduated from the Istituto per Arte e to Restauro, Florence, Italy, There, I gained valuable exposure and experiences, which also helped me considerably in life, as well as enhanced my performance while working as a resident interior designer for a Kaduna-based architectural firm, Habitat Associates. Later on, I resigned from there to co-found Avant-Garde, a company that specialized in developing interior design schemes for residents, offices, and hospitality outfits in Kaduna and Lagos states. My appreciation and love of creative arts such as music, literature, arts, etc., plus a compulsive need on my part to add aesthetic value to my life and the lives of others helped me to arrive at the vision that led to the birth of Interior Options. I founded Interior Options Limited in 1987. It has grown from a showroom in Kaduna to a large factory with offices and showrooms in Lagos and Abuja, employing over 100 staff, comprising both Nigerians and expatriates. The first job I did was to renovate my father's house. That was a great advertisement for us. And after that, we got many referrals. A popular saying says, seeing is believing. That is the case of our products. They sold themselves. Did I face some challenges in building my business? The answer is yes. Being young and naive, I was faced with thoughts moments, dealing with some challenges and situations. The issue of lack of skills and commitment staff to share my vision and passion, coupled with the lack of essential infrastructures, were some of the greatest challenges that I had to face in the course of achieving my set goals. Even now, as a bigger company that is still growing, the same challenges of finding the right people with passion, skills, and the right attitude is still a major issue, if not worse, with the quality of education that our graduates are receiving. The issue of infrastructures is still major and continues to be. Well, with a sense of direction, focus, discipline, and commitment, my business goals are gradually being realized. It is constant work in process though. My husband plays a very committed, supportive, and encouraging role in my business.
His implicit belief in my capabilities is one of the motivating factors that goad me on to aim as high as I can.
Where is my shoe?
Whenever occasion, whenever occasion demands, he has no scruples about rising up to take over family functions that are traditionally my responsibility. I strongly believe a spouse's confidence in and support of a female entrepreneur is crucial towards the actualization of our entrepreneurial dream. My family members have been my greatest supporters and my advertisers in what I do. I consider myself greatly blessed and favored to be a part of my family that I find myself in. The values that I treasure the most and which have added to the success I have accomplished in business are integrity, quality, innovativeness, sincerity, creativity, discipline, and commitment. These value systems have helped in establishing the goals of interior options from the initial stage and have also differentiated us from the rest. As I move the company to the next level, I plan to put structures and systems in place. I also plan to organize series of training programs for staff to identify individuals with right qualities. That is, that is people that share the passion and vision of the company so that together we can join forces to build a world-class company. When I have done my bit and my time is over, I would like to be remembered as someone with integrity, sincerity of purpose, and an innovative leader of design, furniture, manufacturing. In addition, I hope I am remembered as an inspiration to women to find their voice and themselves. Major updates between 2006 and 2014. Major strides. Over the years, IO Furniture Limited has grown in terms of capacity and turnover. We have a broader market reach, and our products and services now have a wider product range. Our brands are a lot more defined with regards to quality, design, and function. The staff strength has also grown. For our staff, we have structured training that will improve their effectiveness, efficiency, and productivity. We also have training that affects their personal lives, like their finances, how to manage funds, and use their income prudently. We are constantly coming up with new designs and new products. To sustain our reputation for innovative design, we have won several awards such as Best Nigerian Furniture Manufacturers and Best Showroom. These awards are proof of our creativity and industry. Contributing factors. I believe in what we do and I love what we do. Our employees also identify with the vision of remaining the leading furniture manufacturing and interior design consultancy company in Nigeria. They believe in our progress and demonstrate this by using IO Furniture Limited products in their personal homes. One has to stay committed, dedicated, and focused to achieve goals. I always have a target and keep my mind on ensuring I achieve my targets. If you don't have a target, you can't aspire. So I always have a very clear sense of direction to achieve my goals. Factors responsible for success achieved and failures encountered. We work in a very hostile environment. Government is constantly introducing new policies and regulations. Every day policies change, so it is difficult to plan because we are not sure what new policies they are going to implement. Unavailability of basic infrastructure is also a challenge. The greatest challenge I have had is lack of skilled human resources. The need to invest in our people is paramount. Despite the inefficient power supply, which is a challenge to the business, an uneducated workforce is far more major challenge. We need an educated workforce to grow any economy. Sourcing for raw materials is another challenge. What is available locally is so limited. Of course, the first option is to explore what is available locally. In the event that it does not meet our standards, it slows down our work. This is a major problem. We suffer untold delays. Our raw materials are stuck at the ports and oftentimes affect our products, logistics, and delivery timelines. Another challenge is the issue of multiple taxation. We pay taxes for virtually everything, some of which are ITF, NISTF, LASEPA, LASMA, LOMA, and so on. Growth management. Given my own definition of success, I don't think I will call us successful. Rather, I will call us work in progress because we are not where I want us to be yet. I don't even think we are halfway there. So, given my own definition, I will not call us successful but work in progress. In terms of growth, we've grown by leaps and bounds for the very simple reason that we engage the services and qualified Italians to come in here and set up the production unit and factory. We are meeting international quality standards. Our raw materials are of first grade and optimum quality. The quality of our workforce has also improved. Our management staff are trained at Lagos Business School in senior management training. We are also grooming our staff to become effective leaders. In addition, we have introduced new services into our business model, which initially were not there. Our products include kitchens and wardrobes. Although finding the right technicians for these new services can be daunting sometimes, nevertheless, we strive to source for the best hands and deliver quality services to our clients. Life and business lessons learned in the last 6 years. I have learned to believe in myself and stay focused. Things are not always what they seem, but one should never let that deter one from pursuing one's goals. I try to make sure that I'm not defined by challenges that come up because I have no control over what life is going to throw at me. Life will throw curveballs, but what determines the outcome in life is one's response to it, how one chooses to deal with it. That is, what is in one's control. So, whatever the challenge, it's my prerogative to determine to either be a victim or a survivor. I've never believed in the phrase, why me? My approach is, I have this obstacle or situation. How do I overcome this hurdle? Do I walk around it? Do I jump? Or do I wait a bit? I don't hear a no. I don't believe in no. I don't believe in I can't. I ask questions and try to understand what obtains and ask why it can't be done differently. Or why isn't it being done differently? I ask if there's another way of doing this, which is much better, much faster, and much more efficient. I've learned that you should always be prepared. If you are prepared in every aspect and in every way, when the opportunity present themselves, it is easy for you to take charge. You've got to have a plan. Either it's a short-term, medium, or long-term plan. One cannot go through life without a plan. You've got to have a clear sense of direction. You've got to be prepared. The distractions will come. That again requires attitude and perspective. I've always seen my glass as half full rather than half empty. There's always somebody out there that is worse than you. Make sure that you are an authority in what you are doing. And if you are not, make sure that you are talking to that business in hindsight. I should have had mentors. I should have had business mentors, even though I have mentors. There should be people you talk to about various aspects of business. Have a business plan. Have a clear idea of what you want and be very meticulous about it. The information you use or put out there, make sure that you understand your business completely and always learn as much as you can about your business and be willing to take risk. Be willing to try. Don't be afraid of falling or stumbling. If you are afraid, fear will limit you. It will hold you back, but if you are not afraid, you can tell yourself what's the worst that can happen. You'll be shocked at what you can achieve. So, fear has never been a consideration for me. I have never been afraid. I've always been willing to experiment and be a little adventurous. Spousal role. My husband has been exceptional. One of my fears was to be married to someone who would limit me. It's a fear that would have stopped me from getting married, but my husband never stood in my way. All I ever got was his complete and total support. He allowed me to express myself and do what I want to do. When you have been given that sort of freedom and trust, you don't want to abuse it but cherish it. Also, because I have always known that I have my husband's complete trust and support, it's actually a bit of a burden because I now do everything in my power not to let him down. My husband is always there with the children when I am not there. He's an exceptional father. So you do need your spouse's support if you want to grow. If you are married, you need your husband's support and approval. Advice to young upcoming female entrepreneurs. My advice to young women is to know who you are and always be prepared. What do I mean by being prepared? Be dressed appropriately for interviews and business meetings. Dress professionally so the person sitting across the table takes you seriously. You've got to learn the social ethics. I've realized that lots of women today don't know what's appropriate and what's not. From dress code to making presentations, you should know where it is appropriate to meet someone for a meeting. You have to bear in mind that when the vulnerable species, women, are not the same as men. It is women who get raped, not men. We've got to protect ourselves. Never put yourself in a vulnerable situation. Always make sure that you are in control of the situation. This is very important. You've got to make sure that you have a complete understanding of what it is that you are doing, that is the business that you have ventured into. If you do not have a complete understanding, make sure you are working with a team of people that do and be ready to learn quickly. The biggest need for all is to get financial literacy. That is our greatest failing as women. We are not financially literate. We are not financially savvy enough to say, when you have money, this is what I want to do with it. Unlike the dynamics of money and how to play with it. Acquire financial literacy skills before you venture into entrepreneurship. Things you would have done differently. I would have had a business plan from the beginning. I didn't have business plan when I started. That is because I love the business. Also, if I had a business plan, I would have made sure that I was completely financially dexterous. I would have had a clear understanding of numbers because business is about finance, it's about money, it's about making money. Where it's exciting is when you are doing something you thoroughly enjoy and you're making money from your hobby. That's when it's fun. Everybody is in business to make money to add value ultimately. Chapter 8. The person. Ngozi Nzeku, Business Dugo Limited, Post, Managing Director, Industry, Souvenirs and Branding. Background. I was born in a very close-knit Christian family. My parents are educationalists. My father is an economics graduate from London School of Economics, while my mother is a trained teacher. Both of them are now retired. My parents are also disciplinarians, so I learned quite early in life that there is no shortcut to hard work. The discipline and strong Christian upbringing I had helped to give me stability and focus through my student years. Each time I had to go back to the school after a holiday, the last word with which my father always ended his exhortation to me was, remember whose child you are and whose name you bear in everything you do. I have a BSc in sociology as my first degree from the University of Lagos. I also went back there for an MBA program shortly thereafter. In addition, I had privilege of attending various training programs, both at middle and senior management level. When I started my working experience in the banking industry, which I believed remained one of the most disciplined and rigorous environments anyone can work. And because I always like to excel in everything I do, I gained an in-depth core banking experience in the process and moved up the corporate ladder quite rapidly. But when the stress was becoming too much, I decided to resign. Although I resigned at a senior management level, I never had any exit strategy whatsoever. Neither did I have any significant savings that I could use to start a business. Nevertheless, I was very sure of one thing: I wanted to be my own boss. I believe the inspiration that led to my venturing out on my own came from God. Coupled with my desire to be my own boss, I have always wanted to do something creative and add value. So, after quitting my banking job, I wanted to run a business that revolves around my passion. I believe there are so many things in life that will catch your eyes, but only few will capture your heart. That's your passion. My personal mission for business will eventually become a corporate mission is to create a visual message that will complement my client's sentiments with unique products and services. I want my business to consistently represent quality with refined elegance. For every business, information is important. So, in order to achieve this vision, I started reading books, magazines, and also attended trade shows, seminars, and conferences, both locally and abroad, in customized printing, recognition products, programs, and business promotions. It's important to know that at the end of the time, I did not have money, but the vision was captivating that I just couldn't stop. At the back of my mind were also these three keywords: the concept, the product, the process. An exclamation from a satisfied customer is this done in Nigeria? After I zeroed in on my plan to start a custom imprinting business, I approached my bank with my proposal. As a manager, it was easy to package the facility. And based on confidence my bank had in me, the credit was approved. The first challenge I encountered in the course of achieving my vision was the fear of the unknown. I dreaded the possibility of what could happen as a result of my stepping out of my comfort zone. As a comfortable banker, for the uncertainties reading world of entrepreneurship. Secondly, I resigned without any significant savings, so did not really have any chunk capital to start the business. Finally, I was so consumed with my banking career that I did not have an exit strategy as to what I do after I quit. So it took me a while to articulate the type of business I wanted to do. I prayed fervently and had peace within me that God wanted to leave my career, and that gave me a lot of confidence. Moreover, I have always believed that the best way to predict the future is to create it. So I decided to take the plug away. My greatest challenge came when I borrowed some very short term funds to purchase equipment. And before I could start using the machine, the loan was due for payment. What happened was that the equipment arrived during a strike by clearing agents. So I did not take delivery of its own to start work. When I eventually did, the loan was near redemption. So I went to my bank and explained my predicament to them. And after a long period of pressure, they agreed to restructure the facility for me. But I ended up paying four times more than what I borrowed. I learned a very big lesson from this experience, that is to never use short-term funds to finance the purchase of fixed assets. Another big challenge I had to contend with, which has to do with my industry, was meeting product deadline at short notice. Overcoming this hurdle had forced us to increase our in-house capacity for custom imprinting in the process. That means that we also control the quality and craftsmanship of our works every step of the way. What I could term as greatest challenge so far was the ban of the importation of some of the products offered by federal government of Nigeria. This has, however, made us look inward and presently we are working on manufacturing some of our products locally. In a nutshell, the challenges we face are actually making us full circle to serve our customers better. As we believe where there is willingness, great challenges become small. My husband had always been a tower of support for me, spiritually, morally, financially, and this has helped me greatly in fulfillment of my vision and dream. I doubt if I would have dared to pursue my vision without his support. As a professional himself, he's highly secured and has a lot of confidence in my entrepreneurial ability. God created the woman to be a helper to a man. Therefore, right from the creation, a woman derives her identity first from God and secondly from her husband. I strongly believe that a woman's performance is at its peak when she has the support of her husband. As a female entrepreneur, if you have a spouse who is not threatened by your success, the sky is just the beginning and not the limit. My parents taught me to be confident in myself and to dare to soar in anything. Growing up in a family where there's so much bond of love reinforces the confidence coupled with the ingrained Christian teaching that with God nothing is impossible. We are all excited and concerned about each other's accomplishments in my family. This is a vital support system I regularly recourse to. I do not like I do not have a specific role model in business, but I admire people like Hillary Clinton, Martha Stewart, Jack Welch, Aliko Dangote, and Bola Dale Osibodu for their fighting spirit, their staying power, and creation of wealth. The core values that I hold dearly are integrity, excellence, and quality. All these are my submissions on them. A. Integrity. The highest courage is to be yourself in the face of adversity, choosing right over wrong ethics, over convenience, and truth over popularity. There is never a wrong time to do the right thing. Quality. The race of quality has no finish line. Excellence is never an accident. It's always the result of high intention, sincere effort, intelligent direction, skilled execution, and the vision to see obstacles as opportunities. We live in an environment where values are upside down. For me, it's a daily challenge. Determination and, above all, the grace of God to fight and ensure that my fundamental values are not rubbished or compromised. In the long run, it always pays off to stand your ground and fight for your values. Even after the business has already found its footing, I still faced the following growth challenges of: one, getting the crop of staff who shares my passion and vision, increasing overheads due to poor infrastructures, especially the cost of power generation, getting the banks to see the potential that exists in my business so as to give timely financial support. My exit slash handing over strategy. Wow, I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm working in I'm working on getting external investors and I'm putting in place a succession structure. At the end of my days, I want to be remembered as someone who died empty, having completed 100% of my assignments. Beyond running a successful conglomerate, I want to talk I want to take about 2,000 young Nigerians off the unemployment list for the next 10 years. I want to increasingly invest a substantial part of our profits into the empowerment of Christian business women through the provision of microcredit facilities and capacity building in my Kingdom Investors Ministry. Finally, I want to be remembered as a virtuous woman, a devoted wife, and mother to my husband and children. Major updates between 2006 and 2014. 20 major updates. 2008 marked a turning point in my business because that was when Dugo turned 10. At the beginning of that year, I felt it was necessary to roll out the drums, make some noise to celebrate 10 years of survival in the trenches of business. I quickly engaged the service of a brand consultant to rebrand my company. After my meeting with the consultant, he had one-on-one meeting with my staff. I was shocked when he recommended that I should go back to the drawing board to review the vision, mission, core values of Dugo. More importantly, the staff must understand and drive the brand because it was obvious that I was not the same page with my staff. In other words, rebranding is not about changing logo or wearing t-shirts. It's first change in mindset, a complete paradigm shift for effective and results-oriented rebranding. The brand drivers must be champions of the same value you want to drive so that any interaction with your client will be reinforcing those values, otherwise, it will be hypocrisy. The greatest challenge of any business in Nigeria today, be it small or big, is that of personnel. The only advantage of the big companies have is that they have the capacity to carry dead wood and have huge training budgets, the luxury that SME do not have. Capacity building for my staff has always been key. Over the years, I've identified places like Faith Foundation and Lagos Chamber of Commerce, among others, for good quality training on a shoestring budget. On my part, every meeting starts with a training. As I go for conference and training abroad, I come back to train my staff. As an organization, we are still evolving and keep reinventing ourselves. Our vision is to be world-class company that provide total creative solution in personalization, brand promotion, and recognition. Our mission is to be the preferred brand in our business by redefining standards, delivering outstanding customer services, and exceptional creativity. Our brand driver is Go World Class. It occurred to me recently in 2008. I have fired some staff, and will continue to do so. I thank God for the power to hire and fire. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. The challenge, the challenge of getting the right people in 2008 still remains my greatest challenge in 2014. Instead of looking for competent hands that hardly exist, I look for raw materials with the right attitude, and it has been an uphill task because we are continuously training and restraining. Between 2008 and 2011, our business witnessed remarkable growth. From 2012 to 2013, it was adversely affected by the economic recession, which is the offshoot of the global recession from 2012 to 2013. Most of our key clients experienced business downturn, which affected us. We have to make very tough business decisions, which I believe is the beginning to pay off as 2014 unfolds. Recently, I look back and realized that more than three-quarters of those I met in my industry do not exist anymore, which means we must not be doing something right. An event occurred in my life at 1:20 p.m. Friday, December 3rd, 2010, which will remain inedible in my mind. That was the day my father, Sarah, fell Ndubisi Okodu, alias Gentleman Okodu, passed on. He was the first man in my life, the God I saw in human flesh, the Bible I read on daily basis, the son of a pagan priest who ran away from his pagan father to live with an Anglican priest because he wanted to become a Christian and wanted to go to school. He was one of the very few Igbo men to go to London School of Economics in the early 60s and came back to become one of the most respected educationists in the eastern part of Nigeria. He was a reckless giver who emptied himself in the lives of people. He was very passionate about education and spent all his life molding the lives of young people. He gave scholarship to countless numbers of people until he died at 83. He was still paying school fees for students in our community and, of course, ensured that all children were not only doing the same, but had to get jobs for numerous people he was training. He was a prolific writer, an intellectual, and an author of many books. One of the textbooks he wrote on government for secondary and tertiary institutions in the 80s was adjudged by Macmillan Publishers of London as the best ever written in that subject. At his death, those lives he touched from all over the world came to honor him in an amazing way. It is very difficult for me or any of my siblings to step into my dad's shoes, but the greatest lesson I learned from his life is that wealth, success, fulfillment can only be found in investments we have made in the lives of people and not in our bank accounts or material things. I, my siblings, decided to set up a foundation to continue in his footsteps. Factors responsible for these successes and failure. Success is not a state you arrive at. It depends on your manner of traveling. In confrontation between the rock and the river always wins, not through strength but perseverance. I have always believed that the best way to predict the future is to create it. Despite the challenges and hostile economic environment, I will say that we are growing as an organization. Apart from God, apart from the God factor, which is number one for me, here are some key factors that have contributed to the modest growth we have achieved. One, delayed gratification. I started this business with little or no capital, with no angel investor. But over the years, I have used prudence and financial discipline to plow back our profits. This entails a lot of sacrifice and denial of pleasures of life to ensure that this business grows. B. Lessons from mistakes of the past. I learned a huge lesson early in my business to be very careful with bank credit facility. Now, I use internally generated fund for purchase of fixed assets, while bank credit is for working capital only. This has paid off, especially when our cash flow projection for the purchase of some equipment did not work out. I can't imagine how we could manage a situation like that if we had borrowed money from the bank to repay loan on equipment that we are yet to use after 4 years of purchase. C. Capacity building. I'm very passionate about knowledge because you cannot rise above what you know. Every year, I travel across the globe for conferences, workshops, trade fairs, looking for what is new in terms of products and technology. I'm an avid reader. I love to read books, and I have a library both at work and at home. Nigerians have sophisticated taste, and in my industry, they are always looking for something new. Here in Nigeria, I am always attending different capacity building programs because in a digital world where information and technology are moving at the speed of light, it is very easy to become obsolete. My membership of international organizations like Promotional Products Association of America Award and Recognition Association of America has given me immense opportunities for continuous training and networking because as an entrepreneur in this environment, you are a jack of all trades and master of all. New business line. In 2009, I realized that according to Ibukun Awosika, planlessness is truly a business model in Nigeria. It's not only in Nigeria that you can plan a chief executive award night, pay for the hall one year earlier, but but 1 week before the event, you don't have the awards. At the same time, AGM, product launch, wedding training, etc. are planned, but gifts, souvenirs, and resource materials for the events are forgotten until the last minute. We have keyed into this lastminute.com opportunity by keeping large stock of promotional products, business gifts, awards, and recognition items, timeless keepsakes, etc. We have also built in-house capacity by investing in state-of-the-art equipment for customized printing and personalization. This has given us opportunity for fast delivery time with customer-centric service. All this put together is the Dugo Edge. In order to increase our capacity, we recently moved into a bigger facility with world-class showroom showcasing over 3,000 products. We also have built a network of foreign suppliers in Europe, USA, and Dubai who carry ready stock on our behalf and enable us to break the bulk for urgent transactions. For large volumes, we have a network of manufacturers in the Far East, and this enables us to handle large volumes. Internally, we have invested in in-house artists and designers so that from conceptualization to design and products, we are on top of our game. Our plan to start local production of some items we import is on the front burner. Growth management in order to survive, especially when overheads were going up while income dwindled. I had to implement some survival strategies which I have which I have come to describe as exponential little bits. Helps for short. These are tiny little things that must be done religiously on daily basis without compound to make a miracle. On daily basis, I look at my cash flow. All inflows and outflows are on a sheet of paper because I don't want to confuse activity with profitability. So I see the next cash flow before any other activity starts. The five magical herbs are lower your cost, increase margin, increase prospects, close more sales, increase frequency of purchase. By applying this, we have reduced our cost of doing business by 25%. This has worked for me, especially in the past 2 years. In 2013, I realized that just a business has a cycle. Staff also have cycle. I identified those staff that I didn't belong to the future of Dugo and eased them out. I was also very happy when some of them resigned. The worst thing that can happen to an entrepreneur is to leave those who have outlived their usefulness to remain in your organization. I refer to them as vinegar. At every meeting, I talked about the Dugo person and the need for those who do not fit in to resign, to be sent away. The only thing that is permanent in my life is change. I will not describe myself as a successful yet because success is a journey and not a destination. I am still struggling because in life, we exchange one challenge with another. Life lessons you have learned. I've learned that a bend in the road is not the end of the road. It's for you to gather momentum for the new vistas. It's never too late to begin again. For God has given each and every one of you a BA degree called Begin Again. You will always miss 100% of the shots you don't take. According to Booker T. Washington, you measure the size of accomplishments by obstacles you have overcome to reach your goals. If you are not riding the waves of change, you'll find yourself beneath it. I have learned that obstacles are those frightful things you see when you take your eyes off the goal. Adversity is a fact and reality of life. Therefore, I have learned not to waste my plan, which is why Kingdom Investors, a faith based NGO, which I found has a vision to empower women through free capacity building, networking, and business counseling, is still waxing strong. It's an NGO born out of my pain and challenges as a banker turned entrepreneur. It's a platform for me to give back. My greatest joy is when I see a woman whose business had collapsed become successful again. When I see confidence ooze out of a woman because she now has the business skills to run her business. I have seen participants transform an idea into big and profitable businesses. We've had amazing testimonies because training is the treasure we carry for life. The greatest investment we can make is the lives of people. Having attended so many training programs at the beginning of 2014, I felt that the time to excel has come, so I have started publishing an online quarterly newsletter called Go World Class to educate, enlighten, inform practitioners in my industry, as well as our clients, the public at large. After so many years of trying to mobilize my colleagues in on the importance of forming an association because of the opportunity that exists in the power of one. We just formed one, and I am the founding president of Association of Promotional Product Specialists in of Nigeria, APSON. Business lessons learned. The business lesson I have learned are numerous. The most important is to start the day in my office with prayers. Just as science has empirical evidence, so has the Word of God. I'm a living proof that the Word of God works. It is good to work hard, but it's God that gives the increase. I have seen hopeless situations in my business come alive. I do not want to be busy to forget the awesome God factor in my business. I have learned that no one is indispensable in Dugo, including myself. Once you identify a staff who has become vinegar, quickly get rid of him or her before she becomes poison. I've learned, just like James Collins said, that your staff are not your most valuable assets, but the right staffs are. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Countless unseen details are often the only difference between mediocre and magnificent. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is the little extra. Finally, I have learned that not everyone is our customer. I shall constantly look out for those 20% that give me 80% of my business. They are the ones who want value and most of the time do not complain about price. Pareto principle of 2080 rule is so relevant in business, contrary to what they teach in business school. The customer is not always right, though it's essential to treat your customers right. Go over, go under, go through, but never give up. Keep your face to the sunshine, and you will never chase shadows. Spousal role. I could not have done anything without my husband, Dr. Nwachukwu Nzegu, an accomplished consultant radiologist, well grounded and confident gentleman. He is such a tower of support and my greatest fan. When the business challenges, the wilderness experience come, he says, Engi, don't, don't you ever confuse the channel with the source. He let me pursue my dream, and the home front is intact. Just like Sheryl Sandberg, the COO of Facebook, and her book Lean In, a must read for all women. I thank my husband, Nwanchukwu, for making everything possible. Most importantly, he is also the chief priest of my home. Even when I'm overwhelmed and cannot pray, he's as solid as a rock and my faith extender. Change to your value system. My fundamental core values have remained the same through, though sometimes in the environment, the urge to jettison values stare at you in the face because at times it appears it's a crime to operate good corporate governance. When you see what goes on in the supply chain of organizations you do business with, some of them have images without reputation. Each time I'm tempted, I still hear the voice of my late father, Sir R.N. Okodu, saying, remember whose child you are in everything you do. The crux of the matter is that corruption has become systematic. The most profound definition of culture is the way of life of a people. So it's a tough fight with serious consequences for those of us who want to live above board. Advice to young upcoming entrepreneurs. Experience is not the best teacher. You can read it up, hear it out, but do not wait it out. Big things come in small packages, so start where you are. Do not lose your identity. Know who you are and stay focused. The grass can be greener on the other side of the septic tank. Those who say it cannot be done are usually interrupted by those who are doing it. We live in an environment where the system and values have gone down. Therefore, any young person who wants to succeed must get an education and continuous updates yourself. Don't chase wealth to make it overnight. Create your own blue ocean, and you will realize that profit in business is a nice side effect of doing things right. The race does not go to the swift, but those who keep running because of your way up the ladder. There is a crowd on the extra mile. Read, read, read some more. That's the fastest way to fast track success, especially when you read autobiography of successful people. No one is going to reinvent the wheel, so take time to read. I recommend the following books: Entry Leadership by Dave Ramsey, Winning by Jack Welch, Good to Great, Built to Last by Jim Collins, Blue Ocean Strategy by W. Chan Kim and Renee Malborg. For the Balancing Act, Lean In by Sherry Sternberg. And of course, the greatest book of all time, the Holy Bible by God. Chapter 9. Name Oyinade Aje. Business Satin and Lace. Post Managing Director. Industry Fashion and Style. Background: My name is Oyinade Aje. I'm the second child in a family of six. Growing up was a bit unsettling, but great fun as well. Traveled from country to country and changed schools numerous times due to my father's job. This afforded me the opportunity of interacting with people of diverse races. In short, my early days exposed me to different cultures, which obviously impacted my life significantly and helped in my shaping who I turned out to be today. My dream as a child was to be different. I wanted to try my hands at something a lot of people hadn't tried their hands on. I always dreamt of doing something novel and exciting with my life, like being a model or a beautician. When I finished my youth corps service, I worked as a solicitor with a law firm, Philip Bego and Co. at Western House. Later, I moved to NGM. Sometime before was transferred to take the acting manager position of a travel agency owned by the company. I remember that when I was younger, I always said, by the time I'm 30 years old, I'll have my own business. I have always known I wasn't cut out for the 9-5 routine. I knew I had to do my own thing, my own way. You could say I discovered myself quite early. I have always been creative and I have since longed to use my hands 20 years ago. Wow, how time flies. One day, a lady in my church asked me to help her make a tiara for a renewal of vows with her husband. Now, I had never done such thing before, but never been the one to say I can't. I agreed to do it. So, armed with bridal magazine and some rather crude tools, I managed to make something quite beautiful. On the day of the ceremony, another friend whispered in my ears, "Oh, Yinade, if you don't commercialize this talent, God will be cross with you." Oh, that was my aha moment, as Oprah would say. The light bulb just came on, and I decided right there and then that I would start making handcrafted bridal accessories. Having made that all important decision to the type of business to venture into, I traveled abroad, first to Hong Kong, then to London, where I stayed for 2 years and soaked in all the creative atmosphere London had to offer. I also brought books and borrowed some from various libraries in a bid to equip myself, as I found out that it wasn't easy to get the formal training I needed for the business. England was a very creative space. If you have creativity in you, you just being there is an inspiration also. I have an innate gift that when I take a look at something, I can pretty much figure out how it was made. While in London, I also brought all the tools and materials I would need to start the business. Then I came to Nigeria and started satin and lace in 1991. The challenges you face in business are different as business changing and growing. When I started being a pioneer company, the challenge was gaining credibility and acceptance and getting people to believe in you and what you do. One of the things that motivated me to start the business was the desire to let people know that beautiful things can come out of blessed country of ours and you don't have to go across the shores for anything beautiful. With growth, I ensured that the core values of the business were not eroded or compromised, such as recruiting the right staff and other associated HR issues, as well as ensuring that proper structure and processes are put in place. In Nigeria, we have a very unique workforce, and it takes nothing but the grace of God to employ and retain the right crop of workers to accompany you on your journey. Of course, growing a business requires capital, and that too can be challenging. Raising capital for a small business owner is fraught with all sorts of requirements that can be discouraging. For me, a creative entrepreneur, as a creative entrepreneur, I would really love to concentrate on creative side of things and not bother myself with day-to-day management of the company, checking accounts and inventory, etc. I feel I need my thinking space so I can create and innovate. However, reality demands that I must pay attention to those sides of business as well. If I want a mess on my hands at the end of the day. In the early days, my husband wasn't that involved in the business, but he didn't in any way curtail me. He gave me the liberty to pursue my dreams. The only condition he gave was that my commitment to the family should not suffer consistently because of the business, and that I try my best to comply with. Now that the business is growing, he is even much more involved and supportive, as he does not want me to buckle up under pressure. A spouse is truly very important in the fulfillment of entrepreneurial dream. On your own, you can achieve, especially if God is with you. But having the support and encouragement of an understanding spouse makes the entire entrepreneurial journey much easier and fulfilling. To have someone by you to hold your hand when the going gets tough, as it inevitably does, is a resource not to be underestimated, but one to constantly celebrate. The way I see it, business is tough enough, particularly in our environment, without you having to encounter hostility from your partner at the forefront. That will surely have a destabilizing effect on the woman. Family is important as well in achieving the entrepreneurial end, especially if you have brought into the dream and vision. What what premium could you possibly place on the value of family member who encourages you, makes money and collateral available for you? When the chips are down, it's simply unquantifiable. My role model are Mrs. Ibukun Asokiwa, Mrs. Nike Ogunlesi, and Mr. Leke Alda. They are a constant source of inspiration to me personally and to many others in business. I applaud their achievements and contribution to present day Nigeria. As for my value system, I believe in honesty and fair play. For me, you must always strive to be a win win situation in business. I believe very strongly in excellence. After all, I have the excellent spirit of God within me. Therefore, I believe whatever you are doing in life, no matter how mundane you may think it is, adding the touch of excellence to it will make a world of difference. As Bishop Mike Okonkwo once said, even if you are selling granules, do it with excellence. As children of God, when we do things excellently well, we honor God, we show the world the children of whom we are, and bring glory to our Heavenly Father. One area of my value system has helped me to achieve success is that when people know who you are and what you stand for, they will readily do a business with you and keep coming back. And that has been our story in Satin and Lace when we first started business. Not a lot of people knew about us, but whenever they saw our work, they assumed it was imported. And upon realizing that it was made in Nigeria, they were usually bowled out. This is what a value system of excellence does for you. The Bible says, see a man diligently in his work, he will stand before kings and queens, and not before more men. Proverbs 22, verse 29. I make bold to sunrise that the word diligent, as the verse puts it, is not just about working hard. It's more, it's more than that. It's about working hard, working well, and working excellently. Excellence attracts. I believe the only way to the works of our hands can praise us at the city gates is when they are excellently executed. Major updates between 2006 and 2014. Major updates. Well, the major thing that has happened is that Satin and Lace, my business for 20 years, was closed down 3 years ago amidst a lot of raw shock and utter disbelief. My mentor and friend, Pastor Mrs. Billy Awosika, was quite upset with me as she felt strongly that we had gotten some value for it by selling it rather than just closing it down. There were some interested buyers, but they were all still they still wanted me involved in the business one way or the other. Unfortunately, I was at that point where I felt totally drained of energy and passion needed to keep the business going. I cannot live without passion. My desire is to live life with an exclamation mark. I needed to be passionate about whatever I do. I can only be engaged in that which my soul sings. To excel in what you do, you must give yourself wholly to it, and do that you need passion. I'm a very intense person. So it's either we go for broke or we don't go at all. I absolutely love excellence, and mediocrity depresses me. With Satin and Lace, I felt bereft of the energy and passion needed to take it to the next level. Truth be told, if I did not have energy, I was no longer willing to invest it in the business. I always tell people that essentially I'm a creative person, and for 20 years I choose to express that creativity in the bridal industry through satin and lace. And now I felt instinctively that it was time to explore and express my creativity in new ways. For those who feel I'm wasting my God given creativity talents by closing the business down, my answer is that whatever my adventure is, it is still the God given ability that I will employ, albeit indifferently. Why did my passion for business die? Honestly, I have often wondered, can people kill it? I don't quite know. I'm a fighter with a can do mentality. I don't give in easily, but I felt a strong need to close down and have and I've never regretted the decision. Many valuable lessons have been learned in 20 years of running satin and lace, which I will put in use in the new venture, life and family. When I was running satin and lace, I didn't have time for much else. My social life was practically non existent. My constant prayer was that no major events should take place in busy December because I may not be able to attend. I am blessed with one more wonderful son, Kaisola, but honestly, I was not able to give him as much time as I would have loved. Growing up on my sole ambition was to be a homemaker par excellence, baking bread and cookies, starching and ironing hobby shirts. But with satin and lace, all that flew out the window. I always made a great deal of effort to put family first, but it wasn't easy. It wasn't always easy. Traveling abroad with the family was also a tall order. A lot had to be put in place before traveling to avoid things falling apart before my return. Of the country, once out of the country, there would be constant texting, emailing, and numerous phone calls. And of course, we couldn't be away for more than 2 weeks. It was a blessing to have satin and lace for 20 years. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I woke up excited every blessed morning. Until a few years prior to closure, I was pumped up, full of energy and life. I was, however, also constantly on edge. There were always there were always deadlines and there were always fires to put out. I remember when I had nearly closed down. Two of my sister-in-law had babies and I asked a florist friend of mine to make bouquets for them. And she remarked, Oinade, now that you have closed down your business, you have time to love people. It certainly has been delightful savoring the simple pleasures of life. As a creative person, I'm not afraid of embracing emptiness. I'm not afraid of white space, although many people felt that it was downright reckless of me to close the business down without being certain what the next move was. I felt it was a very courageous move indeed. It takes uncommon courage to follow your convictions in spite of what those around you, most of them well meaning and sincere, are saying. My gut instinct started the business many years ago. Amidst a lot of skepticism, my gut instinct also said, enough, time to move on. For me to access the next level, I needed to remove all clutches. I needed to be still so as to hear clearly the gentle nudging of my heart. As my personal life, I am more relaxed, more in tune with who I am, and more certain of things that are truly important to me in life. I've also been able to read more and develop myself personally. I've been able to give more of myself to people in my life. I've been more committed to my church choir, which is such great source of joy and fulfillment for me. Learning points from closed business. Satin and lace started off as a hobby. Remember, my ambition growing up was to be a homemaker, but the business started to thrive beyond my wildest dreams. and it grew at a rate that I was ill prepared to handle. Lack of organizational structure made it easy for workers to prefer. Every single item sold at Satin and Lace was handmade by us. In more advanced economics, handmade goods are more valuable than machine made mass production items. We are yet to fully embrace that concept here in Nigeria. Everyone oohs and ahs when they see our work, and although the endorsement is always uplifting, the oohs and ahs are not bankable and they do not pay bills. The value something to value something is to be ready and willing to put your money on it. I was making luxury goods but not pricing them accordingly. The business was not for everybody, yet I tried to accommodate everyone's budget. It's like manufacturing a Rolls Royce and a customer walks in and in order to bring the price down, asks for a Saboro door and a VW boot. However, because I take such pride in the work of my hands, I would always make the Rolls Royce in spite of the amount paid. Hence, I often shortchange myself. This is why it is good to tell yourself before you go into the business. For me, it is clear that I cannot make run of the mill product. It is just not in my DNA. So why bother? What would you have done differently? For starters, I would have had a partner, someone to complement me and tackle those aspects of business that are not my forte. I once read in an article in Times or Forbes about Marc Jacobs, an international designer. Marc Jacobs had a partner who is charged with the business side of the brand, and this greatly frees Marc Jacobs up to do what Marc Jacobs does best: create. Satin and lace would have benefited greatly from such collaborations. My creative juices would have flown unhindered instead of me being sapped of all vital energy. Growth management before closure. As the company started to grow, we consulted relevant professionals on best management practices for us. I attended business seminars and courses so as to manage growth well. No matter what the best consultants tell me, if it doesn't resonate with me, it would be very difficult for me to implement the idea. We, however, followed through on a number of recommendations, such as reviewing and changing our method of hiring staff. We had an organogram and employed graduates for key positions. Basically, we try to change from being a mom and pop shop to being a proper business entity with structures in place. I always used to tell my workers in those days that quality must be introduced from the inception of any project working on. To introduce it as stage 3 or 5 would be a colossal waste. For example, if we are designing a gift basket, the basket itself must be well made and sturdy, and proportion must be correct. No matter how beautiful our design is, a lopsided basket is still a lopsided basket. The same goes for a company. That are some basic things that if they are not introduced from the get-go, I would result in faulty growth. I felt this at Satin and Lace, and that's another reason I felt I needed to start over. Challenges in business. One of the greatest challenges any business in Nigeria will encounter is that of the Nigerian worker. Obviously, not everyone is the same, and you can get great workers too. I've always maintained that we need to have a brainstorming session with anthropologists, sociologists, psychologists, human resource personnel, and the best brains in the world to help decode the psyche of average Nigerian worker. What makes them tick? How do you motivate them? How do you inculcate good work ethics into them? Being religious and pious seems to make the difference in working ethics. Something is fundamentally wrong. Many people say it's poverty. I say it's a whole lot of hogwash. Poverty may contribute, but I suspect that the poverty mentality is more the culprit here. In your mind, if you are poor, you concern with yourself the basic needs of life, such as shelter, clothing, and food for subsistence, not the latest BlackBerry or designer's clothes. I once caught a house help of mine eating my grapes in her bedroom. When I admonished her sh- that stealing wasn't good, she snapped and she said she's not a thief, that she's merely hungry, to which I retorted, if you were merely hungry, you would have reached for Gary and ice cold water, infinitely more satisfying. My dear, you are greedy and covetous, period. There was a time in certain days that the stealing just got out of hand. I had to close the factory down for a week just so I could calm down and think straight. One of the factory workers said to me, àwọn Yorùbá sọ wípé ìbí tí èèyàn tí ń ṣiṣẹ́ ní èèyàn tí ń jẹun. In the interpretation of Yoruba proverb lies some of the challenges an entrepreneur will face with workers. To me, the proverb simply states your job is your means of livelihood. You don't work, you don't eat. Therefore, take it seriously, work hard and well so you don't lose it. Unfortunately, to a lot of workers, the proverb means that your job must satisfy all your needs, whether inordinate or not. So, the funds to complete that house in the village must somehow come out of the business. It matters not that the CEO is yet to buy the first brick. The money for the 60,000 naira Ashoibi must be eked out of all costs. A drastic change in our way of thinking is crucial for both the employee and the entrepreneur. It's amazing how you employ someone who still needs to train on the job, but they need to train in casing your business to identify or create loopholes that can be exploited for their enrichment. Some people have suggested getting Chinese workers, and some businesses are now doing very well because they decided to do just that. What then would happen to my desire to impact my nation and its people if I give the jobs to foreigners? Some argue that the foreigner would model proper work ethics to the local workers. Maybe so. Is business just about smiling to the bank, or should it be equally be driven by other lofty ideas? Perhaps I am a naive idealist, lacking the cutthroat instinct necessary to flourish in business. How to forestall these challenges in a new business? Well, running satin lace for 20 years was the MBA I never registered for. A wealth of lessons learned. I need to sharpen my leadership skills. As the leadership guru John Maxwell always says, everything everything rises or falls on leadership. I must be a visionary and a dynamic leader to be able to ignite the hearts of my staff with the passion I have for my business. We must have a clearly defined mission statement and engage in recruitment processes that is suited to the business and the caliber of staff required. Life lesson. The major lesson I have learned in all this is that I must always take responsibility for whatever happens to me. Never be quick to pass the buck. Like Michael Jackson sang, I need to start with the man in the mirror. Yes, Nigerian workers are hard not to crack. Yes, Nigerian factor cannot be easily ignored. Yes, the customer wants the very best for small amounts of money. Knowing all this, I simply need to devise a strategy to deal with it effectively. It's like an entrepreneur in Nigeria whining to a client that there was power failure and so the order could not be completed. No business person would worth their salt would use power failure as an excuse. It's a given and such should be factored into our permutation. Yes, the Nigerian terrain is quite hostile for business. Some businesses need to be given incentive, but none is given, while some foreign companies are given incentive on the sly. Very badly done indeed. I have learnt a lot about myself too. The key lesson being that whatever I produce is always the Rolls Royce of its range. At least that's my aspiration. I cannot make a jalopy or no matter how valid they may be. I leave that to the person who has the passion for that. I have learned to place value on my creativity and not sell myself short. Since the closure of the business, a lot of people have come up to me, have come up to me to say such wonderful things that I probably would not have heard if I were still in the business. Some old clients call me up and ask me what I'm going into next because they are certain that whatever it is, it will be great. So heartwarming. I had also learned the value of socializing a bit more. After all work and no play makes Jack, or should I say Jill, a very dull lass indeed. Change in value system. People often say you shouldn't be too nice to your workers, and they tend to respect the person who treats them like crap best. Whilst I wouldn't say I treated my workers like crap at certain and least, I will admit that I was a shouter, nay a screamer. I do not suffer fools gladly, and I am a bit of a perfectionist. I must have all my ducks in a row. Thank you very much. I believe we tend to celebrate mediocrity in the environment, so insisting on excellence from your workers can be quite frustrating. This time around, however, I want to adopt Sir Richard Branson's way. Right here is a boss after my own heart, the most colorful entrepreneur on the planet. He firmly believes the workplace should be a fun place and that workers thrive better in the atmosphere. There are some there are some business decisions I want to take, and I have promised that I will not make them until I finish all Sir Richard Branson's books. Here in Nigeria, there's an entrepreneur that I greatly admire. She is Mrs. Lola Young, the owner of the nail room. I have been her client for over 15 years, and the number of workers I met there are still working there. I was therefore prompted to quiz them and find out why they have stayed and what is about their boss that makes them work there great. All the answers were pretty much the same. She treats them she treats them with respect and is good, generous but also very firm. If an offense attracts a fine, you pay it no matter what, and whether and when you need to be talking to she. She would never embarrass you publicly, but rather call you aside to admonish you. I spoke to her as well, and she said the same thing about how she handles them and how a lot of her friends have insisted she's spoiling them and needs to crack down on them more. As we all know, you cannot argue with results. Spousal role in business closure. There is no way I would have closed down my business without my husband's consent. I have mentioned it casually a couple of times, but the last time we talked about it, I'm sure he sensed that I must know what I'm doing, and he agreed. I had to explain that I am the main driver of my business, and if the main driver is feeling the way I'm feeling, that means the supposed strongest link has become the weakest link, and before long, I will do the company more harm than good. So I needed to exit before that happened. So spousal support after business closure. After the closure of Satin and Lace, people would ask me what I'm doing now. I would say playfully, I am a kept woman, to which most would respond, whoever is keeping you well. My husband has been quite supportive, but after about a year and a half at home, he started suggesting all sorts of business ideas to me. So it dawned on me that my days of being kept were sadly coming to an end. Naturally, it has not been easy just having a steady source of income, but God has been faithful. Advice for young entrepreneurs facing challenges. Young entrepreneurs facing challenges. The first thing I would say is learn to give yourself a pat on the back once in a while, even if no one else will. That you have chosen this path says a lot about you. You are an audacious dreamer. As they say, unusual doors open to those who dare to knock. You will make mistakes, we all do, but the key is to always to salvage something useful from the wreckage of the mistake. No matter how many books you read and how many mentors you have, you will still make them. You need to know, though, that you can't minimize the mistake because some people have gone through things, just that you wouldn't have to. Learn from these people's experience, even though you will still have your own. Talk to other entrepreneurs, meet for lunch and network. Pick one another's brain. Find out how they have handled the situation you are facing, and so on. You may not always come away from such meetings with all the answers to your problems, but you will come away feeling greatly encouraged with a renewed vigor to continue in your pursuit. Don't hide or run away from your challenges. They can only make you better and stronger and make your story more interesting and compelling. I wish you the best. Nigeria will be great because of you and I. Number 10, Tara Fela Durotoye, Business, House of Tara, Post, Creative Director, Industry, Cosmetics and Style. Background: I was born on March 6th, 1977, at Nicholas Hospital as Mewe Tara Sagi to John Ejege and Mrs. Felicia Omagomi. The union did not last long, for they separated when I was only 8 months old. So I was brought up by my father's wife, Mrs. Modupe Sangi, from the age of 8. Due to the fact that my father was polygamous, I I had another stepmother as well. Childhood was not very exciting for me, as I was the only biological child of both my parents. My stepmother, Modupe Agnes, did a great job of making me happy. However, I was happy to leave the house for a boarding school. So, away from the taunting of my other stepmothers, I started my education Command Children's Command Children's School, Victoria Island, and then I proceeded to Nigerian Navy College School, Ojo, an outskirts of Lagos. There, at my Form 1, I met with the Lord Jesus Christ, and that made pains of polygamy easier for me to bear. And the experience was soothing enough that I was willing to return home from the boarding house in Form 3. I became sanitary 6 welfare prefect in Form 5 and developed my faith and ability to transfer the knowledge of biblical principles to other students at that time. I consider this physical phase of my life self-identifying and very refreshing indeed. Besides, it prepared me for where I am today. I developed strong leadership traits coupled with a desire to succeed. I also came to realize that it's not just an ordinary girl, but a person of influence. One of the dreams I had then was to become a successful lawyer who specializes in international law, who could speak both French and Spanish. I desired to study at Cambridge University in the UK, which happens to be my father's alma mater. I also desire to work at Rotimi Williams and Co. Chambers so as to develop my skills. I had a stint of working experience assisting the clerks in one of the courts in Federal High Court on Queen's Drive, now Oyikon Abayomi Drive, for some months before going to university. I got this job simply by my own effort. I developed my social skills the more because I met a number of lawyers that I interacted with. And as I grew older, my father enrolled me at the Alliance franchise on Kingsway, Ikoyi, as well as the famous ICL Computer School, in furtherance of my determination to become a successful international lawyer. I had the vision firmly and in mind, and every day I was taking steps to actualize them. Although some of the things I was doing did not seem to make much sense to me at the time, now I realize that these traits were being developed in me for the time as this. My dream came to an abrupt halt when my father had a stroke, and that meant I would have not been going to the UK to further my studies as I had planned. This was great blow to all my numerous dreams, and as I had not even made an alternative arrangement to study in Nigeria, I was indeed a great shock to my entire system. My father had to retire as a commissioner at the Federal Civil Service, and we had to move out of our comfortable house at Ikoyi to a smaller apartment. Prior to this time, I had never lived in a small house or a flat before, without all the perks that come with the official accommodation of a top government official that my father was. So, in response to this new developments, I made a decision never to be caught unaware at any point again in my life. I also made a resolution to be independent and build my own in life so that I would lack nothing. Shortly thereafter, I got a job at a perfumery, the only perfume and cosmetic shop at the time. It was a beautiful store, and while there, I began to learn all I could and develop some of the skills that I later came to apply in my own business. After a year and a half, I was ready to resume my education. So I got admission into the Lagos State University to study law. After 1 year of studying law, the death of my father in the second year, all my interest to work as a lawyer disappeared. I then started to try my hands at different businesses. And after several trials, I found I finally settled for my present calling, that's running a beauty company. I started the business by going an extra mile each day to offer my services to as many people as possible. Sometimes I did so even without charging a fee. Every time people saw me doing this, they complimented my works, and the more I did, the more people talked about me and my business to other people, and the more referrals I got. I really cannot say that I have any vision in mind when I started the business, save for the decision I had made earlier, which served as a fire that kept me going. But sometime later, my vision became articulated after I had attended several courses out of my desire to build a sustainable business that will outlive me. I started with a desire to be independent and make a name for myself, and building on this desire, went for several courses to give my desire a direction. I also read a lot of books, and this helps me come with a mission statement for the company, as well as to create systems and structures. I also did role descriptions and assigned duties to every individual in my team. I found a board of directors of 8 persons, with only two of them being members of my family. I drafted a company policy document which consisted of what the vision of the company is and how we plan to actualize that vision. It all contained the code of conduct within the organization, the culture, the way we relate to our customers, how we answer the phone. We also put in place accounting system, an external auditor, accounting software, payment vouchers for petty cash, creating budgets, etc. I created departments within the company, such as accounts admin, human resource, business development, branding, and customer retention, etc. Then we began to organize training sessions for staff in management position. I expended a great deal of time in sharing the vision of the company with members of staff. Those who did not comply with the vision were fired. The challenges I encountered in the course of starting my first business was in Nigeria. I didn't have a model whose footsteps I could follow or direction because of the uniqueness of the profession. Then I also nursed the fear of people not accepting me or the ideas I came up with. I also faced the challenge of getting members of staff to buy into my personal and corporate vision for the business so that they will not see the company as one-man business that will rise and die with the owner without anything in it, especially when I wanted to start manufacturing my own brand of cosmetics. I also suffered lack of loyalty from some members of staff and betrayal from other people. My family have always been supportive of my dream, from my parents to my sister Juliet and Caroline, who have always been a source of stability personally and for the business. But most of all, I am most grateful to my husband, who was a business consultant at that time and therefore gave me free advice, consulted with me, and gave me the liberty to dream. I fondly remember that whenever I am sharing my ideas with him, he always puts an international perspective to it. without the limitations of the Nigerian factor. I believe a spouse will either mar or make an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship entails a lot of risk taking. It involves taking a lot of unknown steps that one does not know where they may lead to. And in order to take the necessary bold step, you need some support and encouragement of a loved one, whom you are assured will be there if you come what may. This support enables you to be focused on the vision, for without being focused on the vision, the chances are that they are not to be actualized. I considered Mary Kay Ash as my role model simply for her style of running business. My business decisions are based on my Christian faith. I also see my business as a channel for propagating the kingdom of God. My business has prospered as a result of my applying the biblical principles of hard work, tithing, focus, first fruits, among others, all which form the core of my value system. They are indicators that anyone can apply to ensure success in business or any other endeavor in life. Talking about my exit or handing over strategy, I've given a retirement date, and to that effect, I started grooming two successors who possibly take over for me. One of them have left the company, but the other one is still with us and still undergoing training in preparation for this position. The interesting thing about this is that they are both unaware of what I'm doing. At the end of my days and on my exit, I would like to be remembered as someone whose story was an inspiration to many, and also as someone whose life is worthy of emulation. Major updates between 2006 and 2014. Major updates. We had one branch and a staff strength of about 4 or 5 when the Girl Entrepreneurs was first published. Today, we have 15 branches and over 80 employees. The business was 10 years in 2008. By October of that year, I recruited an MBA graduate who, incidentally, was earning more than me. I engaged him because I was yearning for structure and for business to deliver its potential. One of the best things this guy did was to get me to attend owner managers program at the Lagos Business School. And this played a very instrumental role in shaping the direction in which the business started to go. In the space of 1 year, we had 4 branches. We had opened our second branch at Ikeja and our first two franchise stores in Port Harcourt and Ibadan. That was when we started to see the possibility in the business, and this birthed our desire to expand. Originally, the fear of expansion was, will I be able to manage all these branches? Will I have a grip of all of them? But the minute we opened the mainland branch and my general manager started work there, I realized that expanding a business is dependent on the kind of people you have. It was really about people and systems. So my focus became to find people, and to ensure that the systems are in place such that they can run whatever they are. In 2009/2010, we opened an outlet in Abuja. The Ikeja and Abuja stores started to generate a lot of money for the business. I realized there was so much still stock out there in the world, even when I thought our first branch, our first branch in VI was the main place. And for the first time, we got a huge loan from the bank and we were able to rent a 15 million naira facility. In the history of business, we had not even gotten 1 million naira facility. At that time, we didn't even have enough variety in the range. So our growth was limited to the number of products we had. But with the influx of fresh funds, we are able to expand our product line and increase market share. That phase of expansion has not stopped. It stalled a little, but it has not stopped. We want to expand more rapidly. This year, we want to open 10 and 14 new branches. We have already opened 3 in Enugu, Asaba, and Muyo Dofi. We hope that before the year ends, we will be able to open others. But there's also a shift because the kind of expansion we want to do requires another caliber of personnel that we never had before. This will help us because more efficient as a company, block some of the leakage areas we have and solidify. One of the things we are able to do is now how to attract more talents, different kinds of talents that we have had before. This also means it is going to be more expensive for us as a company. We are going to pay more salaries than we have paid or imagined. But as a visionary, there is a certain level you get where your dreams are big because you are a risk taker. And as my chairman says, there's a level you get to where you either jump or drown. I think it's time for us to jump. Another interesting thing that has happened is that the biggest beauty company in the world has approached us to be the distributor of one of the brands in Nigeria. It is a great compliment for us. It is something we are very excited about. And with the success of this relationship, we believe strongly that it will become attractive for other international brands to approach us to do the same. Factors that contributed to successes: having a big vision that impacts, empowers, and develops people is one major factor that contributed to our business structure. We have a vision that is beyond making money. We want to create wealth. If our focus was only about making money, we may be where we are or may not be. It was a significance that we were thinking about developing people and supporting businesses by providing tools for them. If you look at the entire business model, from the beauty representative model to the makeup school model to the retail customers who work in our stores and believe that they would get the best quality products and also enough information as to how they get the best out of the product. What you see consistently is empowerment, enabling, enabling and developing. And when you have had all those behind you, your business, the chances are that you will have a sense of fulfillment, and those who live lives have been transformed as a result of the model are equally as excited as you are. Challenges: the young man I hired left 1 year, and it was a struggle for me to get back to where I was originally. I realized that as you go along, it is important to develop people within. I worked on that quite enough. Other challenges include how the brand is perceived. For instance, so women have a problem with their husbands working in a makeup store. They would rather their husband work in oil company or in a bank. We also have the problem of people who saw House of Tara as a launching pad for their own enterprise. We we had a very high staff turnover because people just come to House of Tara to learn and then go off to start their own businesses. The challenge with this is that you don't have enough time to have experts, but that has begun to change for us. Now, our brand is perceived differently, especially by Nigerians who live abroad and are returning home looking for work. They know what beauty is. They know that beauty is a big sector in the United Kingdom or in the US as opposed to Nigeria, and are therefore willing to go the whole 9 yards for it. Sometimes, too, it is not just perception issue, but also lack of understanding, and then communicating that over a period of time. Changes in business models, processes, and value system. Though the model has not changed, the business process has been developed over time. We embrace the old and the new. In terms of business processes, we have had consultants once every 2 years. We are currently going through a process audit where an external consultant comes in to check the process. We have employed a more experienced internal control manager, and our responsibility is to ensure that processes are being followed through. The value system was not articulated clearly, but in the last 6 years, it has become clear. Some of the values are things that already existed within the company. One of them is care. People who work in House of Tara know that we are a caring company. People see House of Tara and they think of customer service. These are some of the things that already exist. But now we decide to document them, train by them, emphasize them. We don't want to be something that happens coincidentally, but strategically. Our core values are professionalism, expertise, godly attitude, superior customer service, and care. And for us, it is really about institutionalizing the spirit of care. People who have worked here say one of the things they most love about Tara is that it's a caring company. Chapter 11. Yewande Zacchaeus, Business Eventful Limited. Post CEO, Industry, Event Planning and Management. Family background. I was born in Ibadan on April 17, 1961, to Chief and Mrs. Bayo Akinola. I was the firstborn of my family and was made to understand very early in life that was in a position of leadership in the family. I grew up accepting various responsibility, trust upon me without any questions. I remember when I was 13, my parents decided that as a teenager, I should no longer share a room with my siblings. I then moved to I had what I had been the guest room, a room of my own. It was so significant at that time. I was the factor leader of the pack and I was responsible for influencing my siblings for good. My family is extremely close knit and we have always shared and supported each other's dreams. My parents were both professionals who turned entrepreneurs in the early 40s. So for me, it was a natural progression. In the same schemes, my father, Chief Bayo Akinola, studied education at the University of Ibadan and obtained a postgraduate diploma at Manchester University. He started his life out as a teacher and later veered into human resource management as the Nigerian Tobacco Company before he was appointed Commissioner for Information and later for Home Affairs and Industry in the Old Western States. It was after this stint in government that he set up his own manufacturing concern, Atobi Metal and Paper Industries Limited, which is still running today at the grand old age of 73. As I write, he is presently on a business trip to India, sourcing raw materials for the business. My mother is a chartered secretary and administrator who qualified at Balham and Tooting College of Commerce, London, specializing in taxation. She worked for several years at the Internal Revenue Board of Western States, achieving the status of Chief Inspector of Texas before retiring in January 1979 to join my father in running the family business. I set out this background in detail because I am convinced that the paths my parents chose, their example of integrity, professionalism, industry, and enterprise, clearly influenced the pattern of my own business life for good. We must be careful to ensure we set good examples for our children. I attended the All Saints Church Primary School, Jericho, Ibadan, and the International School, Ibadan, for my primary and secondary education, respectively. I was a good student and passed my WAEC with a grade 1. I then proceeded to Clifton High for girls in Bristol, England for A levels against better judgment, my better judgment for fulfillment of father's desire. I have one of his children become a dentist. His mother died when he was very young from a tooth infection. I took A levels in physics, chemistry, and biology at Clifton. It was an unmitigated disaster. I hated science, and no matter how hard I tried, could not fathom physics and chemistry. Needless did I say, I passed only biology, and then I persuaded my father to let me change my preferred art subject, knowing that a retake of physics and chemistry would be a waste of his money and my own time. Fortunately, he agreed, and I went to Bedford Tutorial College, where a I took A-level sociology and economics in 1 year and had excellent results. I moved back to Nigeria to study law at the University of Lagos from 1979 to 1982. I was a merit award winner and graduated with a second class upper division. I enjoyed my studies at Unilag tremendously and was pleased to maintain the excellent academic grades of the Nigerian Law School. After law school, I returned to England and took a master's degree in, in law or at Jesus College, Cambridge University, where I also graduated with a second class upper division. I remember that out of 8 of us Nigerians in class, all except one made a second class upper, a clear evidence of the fact that the time of quality of education in Nigeria was clearly at par with that of the best universities in the world. All the time I was growing up, I always knew I would eventually run my own business someday. I wasn't quite clear what business would be, but my vision was always of me sitting as a CEO in a fancy office, directing people to do things. My father has always been a very social person and an excellent host. My mother, a very detailed and organized woman. We were always hosting guests in our home, and I grew up with a natural instinct for organizing parties, events, bossing my siblings around if need arose, not realizing that this experience would be one day be honed into skills that would run a multimillionaire business. Looking back now, I had a clear ideological childhood. Growing up in Ibadan was lovely. It was peaceful. Our estate Bodija was children friendly and serene. There were no walls, fence, just hedges we could jump over at will to play with our friends. I remember clearly that one of the most exciting ways of having fun was rolling tires down the road with other children. No PSP or Nintendo for us then. There was a real spirit of community we enjoyed that I fear no longer exists in our fractured society of today. Work experience. On my return from Cambridge, I began work in 1983 by observing my National Youth Corps at the Nigerian American Merchant Bank, Lagos. I worked as a legal officer in the legal department under the tutelage of Mrs. Aita Sobeto, the company secretary or legal advisor for the bank at that time. She was an extremely meticulous and organized person. I acknowledge her contribution in shaping my career. I worked at NAMBL for about 3 years. However, after a while, I began to get restless about the routine of work, and I decided that law practice appeared more interesting. I resigned to join the firm of R.I. Coco and Co., which was headed by Mrs. Rita Coco, another consummate professional. Rita was somebody with big vision. I learned early from her that you project yourself and run your business based on where you want to go and not where you are. Needless to say, I soon found out that the practice of law was not as it appeared in Perry Mason or LA law. Cases closed. Cases took forever to be settled. In the 2 years I was in practice, I never saw one case through the end. The entire justice system at that time seemed cut out to frustrate one's aspiration. So I took another decision out of the practice and back to the corporate life for me. I set out this background in some detail to encourage women to always think ahead and make career decisions based on what was best for them, what makes them happy and fulfilled, rather than just what is convenient.
One of my father's favorite sayings to us when we were growing up was that we should not take the line of least resistance. I know it is not easy for everyone to take decisions that will significantly impact their lives in a way that way or may not turn out for good. But even so, life is for the living. We must occasionally take risks. We need to, as much as is within our power, detect the course of our lives in the areas where we have to measure where we have a measure of control. Don't let life just happen to you. Think, take stock periodically, and chart a course for your life based on your dreams and aspirations. Fortunately for me, the time I took this decision was the time the new generation banks were being set up. I applied to several banks and received two offers. The first from Prime Bank to be a legal officer under another senior colleague whom I admired and respected, Mrs. Kemi Ogunmefu, or to be the company secretary and head of legal department of EcoBank Nigeria PLC, where I knew no one but would have more responsibility. Prime's offer was more financially rewarding at that time, but I deliberately chose to go with EcoBank's offer because of the position of responsibility and opportunities it offered. I've never had great cause to regret that decision. I worked in EcoBank for 13 years, 1989 to 2002, serving in various capacities such as company secretary, legal advisor, and head of private banking. At various times during my time at EcoBank, I was also responsible for the corporate affairs and human resource department. I took full advantage of the opportunity for networking, career growth, and travel that were available in EcoBank. This truly enhanced my professional life, and I cannot begin to quantify the leverage that my experience and achievement in a first class bank has given me in my business today. I enjoyed a fulfilling career with the bank and learned a lot about corporate governance, diplomacy, and company politics from a seasoned and experienced board of directors. I acknowledge today the distinguished Nigerians who served as chairman of the board at different times and whom I worked with closely as company secretary, gaining invaluable experience. Their chief PC Asiodu, Otumba Kunle Ojora, Mr. Shonuga, and Chief A.O. Odimayo. As was now usual with me, the restless spirit began to raise its head shortly after I resumed from maternity leave in 1999. I realized that when I got up in the morning, the last place I wanted to go to was my office. I was bored. I would attend board and management meetings and be totally out of it, not connecting, not caring, just wanting. Ah, but those golden anchors, the fancy car, the etiquette, and travel allowances, the fat monthly salary check, whether they were productive or not, the perks, the prestige, all good. But I knew in my heart that it was over. I could have easily remained in the bank, delegating all my duties and collecting a hefty salary at the end of each month. But I knew I couldn't live a lie, and I had to be fair on the employers and true to myself. I didn't I did prevaricate, requesting to be moved to another department, thinking it may just be the legal department that was becoming too routine, especially after over 10 years running the same department. At my request, the managing director at the end, this Holloway, agreed that I had the legal department to my duty. Then Ikelawi, whilst I started a new unit, the private banking unit. I retained my position as company secretary. I ran the private banking unit for a couple of years, but graving, the ignoring feeling didn't go away. So again, I took the very serious decision to leave when the ovation was loudest and chart my course as an entrepreneur. I resigned in August 2002 and was given a grand send-off cocktail by my bank in appreciation of my contribution to the bank since inception in 1989. Arriving at the vision and expressing the same, I had long I had long made up my mind that whenever I left the bank, I would not go into private practices as a lawyer. I think I had seen the stress so many lawyers had gone through trying to get briefs from bank. Also, I honestly didn't have the deep passion for law that I know was required to sustain a lucrative practice. Many people suggested I enter into partnership with established firms or maybe even aspire for a position on the bench as a judge. However, none of this excited me. I was certain I needed to do something that I would enjoy and be happy to do even if I wasn't being paid for it. I set out talking to friends and acquaintances who ran their own business, asking questions about how they started and how they grew. Everyone I spoke to had started off just doing something that they enjoyed or something they were normally good at, and their businesses came alive. So, what was I good at? What came naturally to me? Easy. Organizing things, influencing people. So, how is that a business idea? Who will pay you to organize something for them? As the idea grew within my spirit, I began to pray and talk to people about its possible viability. I tried to get books on the subject in England, but wasn't very successful. Then a young friend, Ejiro Ajise, suggested we look on the internet. We went to Amazon.com. We went to Amazon.com and came back to me with an incredible long list of books on a subject which I wasn't even sure existed in the way. I was thinking it through. I was able to get some of the books and I devoured them. Eruka, I can be done. It can be done. It has been done in the USA. It is a thriving industry there, and if they can do it, I can do it. After all, the motto of my church, the Fountain of Life Church, is I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I need to acknowledge here three friends who really supported this vision and encouraged me to go out and do it. They are Subugiwa Amu, Ayotola Ayodeji, and Dele Ige. You are truly eventful godmothers. I appreciate all my friend Julia Oku, who came up with the name Eventful. Under divine inspiration one day, while we were fellowshipping and sharing thoughts, Julia is now known as Eventful Grandma. I also must recognize Mrs. Akinshola, the MD of Skybank. He trusted me with my very first event for the then Prudent Bank. That was well that was well before event planners were accepted and recognized in corporate Nigeria as they are today. Mr. Akinfemiwa was saying yes to people's dreams long before his advertising agency in Skybank came up with, with that pay off line. So now I had a big idea. What what to do next? I prayed very hard. I needed to seek God's counsel and guidance on how to run with my vision. In my church, we had a tradition where you pick a scripture written on a small card at the beginning of every year. We call these promises, and we believe that God speaks to us through the promises. At the beginning of 2002, the year I decided I would resign, the promise I picked was Psalm 128, verse 2. It says, when you eat the labor of your hands, you shall be happy, and it shall be well with thee. Wow, God doesn't need to come down from heaven to talk to us. He speaks through his word. That was the assurance I needed that the time was now. It was time to eat the labor of my hands, no longer that of my employer. And God had declared that I would be happy and it would be well with me. And indeed, as always, God has been faithful to his words. I was ready to resign that January. That was how excited I was. However, I had to wait a few more months before I was to share offices with my husband, Tenny. He was in the process of acquiring a printing press at Tunupeju, which would afford us more space. I was executive director in his company, Zachi and Chrome Limited. And ideally, the plan was for me to run my little event business on the side while supervising the administrative and human resource requirements of Zachi and Chrome. The first few months were rather quiet for eventful, and I was beginning to get worried that maybe Nigeria wasn't really ready for my groundbreaking ideas. Fortunately, the worst case scenario for me was that if it didn't take off, it would die a natural death, and I would happily continue as ED at Zachi and Chrome and help build our family business, just as my mother had done with my father before me. I need to go now into some detail here of how my value system, which is my Christian faith, impacted my business growth and success. I mentioned earlier that my very first event was organizing a product launch of sorts for Prudent Bank. The bank wanted to host a Christmas party for 3,000, yes, 3,000 children who had opened the Children's Rainbow Savings account. The purpose was also to attract prospective clients. This was in December 2001. I was still working for EcoBank, but I took my annual vacation at that time and organized the event. I had planned to use the fees I received to pay for the incorporation of the events company. I was about to start. Then one day, I was talking to my friend Lamide Balogun, and she asked me what my plan was for the fees I would earn. I told her, and she then asked if I knew about the principle of first fruits. I was not that conversant with it, and so she explained that I could sow the seed as a seed to God, being the very first fruit from a business venture I was praying would be successful. I needed no further persuasion. I believe the entire fee for the event was about 150,000 naira. I wrote the check for the total sum to my church, explained what I was going to do to my pastor, Pastor Taiwo Dukoya. He prayed over my seed and I sowed cheerfully. I have no doubt in my mind that this seed made a way for me in this uncharted terrain and has brought me the incredible harvest of goodwill and abundance that I now enjoy. However, the first 6 months from October 2002 were still quite slow, but at least I had now employed a personal assistant and was trying my best to be the CEO, event coordinator, logistics manager, accountant, etc. At the same time, at, at the same time, I'm plodding along with one or two events a month. Sometime in the first quarter of 2003, I experienced a significant turnaround. I attended a service in my church where a young man gave a testimony about how he had been giving significantly to the church building and fund and literally emptied his account in the process, and how God had really blessed him. I was so convicted by this testimony that I decided I must equally give in a more disciplined manner to the building fund instead of the sporadic way I was then doing it. I thought I heard God say I should be giving 15% of my profit, and I was pleased. Of course, I could do that, but then the Holy Spirit said to me clearly, 50%, my dear, not 15. Get thee behind me, Satan, I shouted. How? 50% K. I battled the matter down to the ground with the Holy Spirit in that service, but no prizes for guessing who won. I proposed in my heart that once I cleared the backlog of various debts I had then, I would begin to sow 50% of my profit to the building fund for the whole of 2003. This was not my this was not any decision, nor was it easy to implement, but with the help of the Holy Spirit and the ever available grace of God, I did it. The undesirable thing was that, in spite of that sacrificial giving, I never lacked materially in any area of my life that year. I was able to do all I wanted to do without leaving out any. It was obvious that God wanted me to prove to him that this business is his and all glory would always be to him. Since the time I gave that offering, the growth of the business was phenomenal. I did not need to advertise. I never left my office in Ilupeju to market anyone. Clients would seek me out and ask for my services. The word of mouth referrals I got were amazing. My spiritual promise for the year 2003 was Isaiah 50, verse 7. For the Lord God will help me, therefore I will not be disgraced. Therefore I have set my face like a flint, and I know that I will not be ashamed. When business was a bit slow between late 2002 and early 2003, that word from God was my definite assurance that I would not fail. Having taken the bold step of faith to forsake the comforts of corporate life for the rigors of entrepreneurship in a difficult terrain, indeed, I set my face like a flint, confident that I would not be disgraced by having to return shamefacedly to paid employment. Challenges encountered. Considering my family, academic and work background, I was clear in my mind that I wanted to run a first class company. I was, of course, sometimes uncertain how far I could take the vision. But as the business began to grow in terms of clientele, complexity, and demand, I resolved that as far as was possible, I would run my company as professionally as I could. The first challenge I encountered on leaving the bank was the incredibly insensitive comments of people who felt I was making a mistake and told me. I heard comments such as, Kilo, what does she depend on? What is her confidence that she left a well paying bank job for this? My answer to all of this was God. You'll be amazed at the number of dream killers that are amongst us. Some well meaning, some well meaning people who couldn't see as far as I could even sat me down to tell me that with my qualifications and background, how could I condescend to be organizing parties and events for people? Whilst my company focuses much more on corporate events, we have had the privilege of organizing several high society weddings and landmark birthdays, and I'm as proud of the services I have rendered to those clients as I am of the many sophisticated conferences, seminars, and corporate launches that we have organized for our corporate clients. There was a definite need for event planners, social and corporate, at this stage of our country's development, and our company provides a qualitative service that fills that gap. I'm glad that all the skeptics have been proven wrong. This is why you must be true to yourself and live your own life. If I was not, I would easily have been ensnared by these negative comments and given up on my dream, particularly in those not so busy earlier months. Now, I have the privilege of my company being considered as the pioneer and market leader in this field, thus opening up a new business venture for many other young entrepreneurs. The second significant challenge I have faced is human resources. I decided very early that I could only work with people who were on the same wavelength as me. After struggling it out more or less alone for the first couple of years, it was clear that I needed people who could understand and run with the vision. The quality of graduates being turned out in Nigeria at the moment is absolutely appalling. I had discovered this development as far back as my days in EcoBank, when so much training and orientation have had to be given to new staff to enable them deliver the level expected of a regional bank. I am fortunate to have two excellent young women, Kofo and Evelyn, leading my team of coordinators, and we are continually striving to nurture and mentor the junior coordinators. Event planning is essentially a passion, not a job. It's simple, not for everyone. Finding the right mix of passion, intelligence, interpersonal skills, confidence, organizational skills, and writing skills for the tons of proposal we need to write is a serious challenge. We seek to continually motivate and train our staff so they can deliver the quality of service that is expected of our company. The state of infrastructure in the country is also an area of concern, even in the service industry. The persistent lack of electricity has a significant effect on our bottom line at the end of each month. The state of the roads and the resultant traffic gridlocks affect our communication with our clients. Thank God for email. These, however, are challenges faced by all Nigerian businesses, small or large. So we'll all continue with that struggle until our change comes, and come it surely will. Probably the most significant challenge of running a small business is the great difficulty in establishing structure and corporate governance. I'm fortunate that because of my background as a lawyer and company secretary, I do keep records of all transactions, document everything, and have a proper feeling system. However, considering I was responsible for ensuring compliance in the bank for so many years, I could not believe how non compliant I was initially in terms of the status of my account, taxes, and other regulatory requirements. Essentially, the business was growing so quickly, and because I was wearing so many hats at the same time, I just never got round early enough to sorting out those issues. Fortunately, because of a project we were working on, which required presenting financial statements, audited accounts, etc., I quickly engaged the services of other professionals, accountants, and lawyers to help sort out our back office issues. I'm glad to say that we are now almost fully compliant and are now in the process of galvanizing our board of directors into active service. Profession, Professionalism is not only about the manner which your services are delivered, but also the way your business is run. Another thorny issue I have faced is that of the gratification. Given my faith and what I have seen of the hand of God upon my life, there are some things I know I cannot embark upon, even though it appears to be the accepted norm in our terrain. Fortunately, I have a precedented set by my mentor in business, Mrs. Ibuku Awoshika, CEO of Sokwa Chair Center. Our company does not give or receive bribes or kickbacks, and yet it is probably the most successful indigenous furniture manufacturing company in Nigeria today. I took a deliberate decision to adopt this policy, and I've often found myself in the embarrassing position of trying to explain these conventions to well meaning people who regard it as a natural course of business. God has given us grace so far, and we believe that with the help of the Holy Spirit, we will not let Him down. I'm a firm believer in the greatness of this country, Nigeria, and I'm certain that if one by one each of us can strive for what is right, change will come to our land. At Christmas, we appreciate in our own small way those who have contributed to our successes during the year. This we believe is appropriate and acceptable. The role of spouse, I consider the role of one spouse is critical success factor for a woman who wants to be successful in business. It is extremely important that we counsel the younger generations to choose their spouse with great care, considering all the practical aspects of life before tying the nuptial knot. Too many young girls are considered with only the wedding and not the marriage. That is life after the wedding day. If you want to be a great entrepreneur, which requires significant commitment of time and resources, there is no point in marrying a man who wants a housewife who will, who will personally cook him hot meals every day. I'm extremely fortunate to have been married to a man who truly supports my vision and helps to fulfill my dreams. As I said earlier, Eventful started out within the premises of my husband's business. We started off by using one, then two, and three offices within the premises before we moved to our own business offices in 2006. I did not pay any rent or phone bills at that time because my husband was willing to support me. Tenny has always been the one with a flair for marketing, and he does a better job of marketing than business than I do anyway. At any opportunity, he's pushing me to do better, travel further, and take any challenges. I would not even have considered if I didn't have his backing and support. A husband can either give his wife the wings to fly by his unconditional support or put her down by making unreasonable demands that will not allow her express herself the way God has destined her to do. Recently, while I was away on vacation and my two senior coordinators were also in Abuja for two separate events, a new client called and requested for a meeting in respect of a conference to be held in Lagos. The junior coordinators were not really experienced enough to attend such a meeting on their own. I was completely blown away when my husband offered to go with them, so at least someone with some measure of authority would be present in the meeting. He is the chairman of Eventful. And when he met with the client, the person turned out to be an old friend of his, so that went rather well. You need to be able to share your passion and your vision with your life partner. So if you are yet to marry, please choose carefully. If you are already married, apply God's wisdom to turn around your situation. If it is not if it's not presently in your advantage. Apart from my husband, my immediate family have always played a significant supportive role in my life. When I told my parents I wanted to leave the bank, there were no issues. All they wanted was for me to be happy and successful. I received the unconditional support of the three figures of authority in my life, namely my parents, my husband, and my pastors. The confidence they had in my abilities as a person and God's faithfulness in my life prepared me to drive my vision to the fullest so as not to let any of them down. As for my sisters, Olufunto, Omobola, Ibiwumi, and Arinola, they are my prayer partners and an incredible rock of support at all times. As far as they were concerned, I had successfully been managing the events of our lives from when we were young. So what's new? I'm known as Zaki Eto, my sisters, by my sisters because of my penchant for sorting everything out, whether they asked me to or not. A real busybody elder sister. My children Teniola and Ireti Dayo, whom I thought would see their mom from the more when I resigned from the bank, are the ones I really have to thank for their understanding. If you are a budding entrepreneur, listen well. You do not have more time for yourself when you start your own business. You may be more flexible in the allocation of your time, but trust me, it will literally take over your life at the early stage. If you are truly passionate about it, you will live, breathe, and dream of that venture. Your life truly, your life truly can never be the same again. But it is worth it when it begins to yield fruit. So persevere. Recently, my daughter said to me after an intense period of time when I had been working weekday, nights, and weekends back to back, as well traveling up and down the country. Mommy, I feel so sorry for you. You are so tired. Why don't you just tell them at Eventful that you are not doing again, Joe? Oh, for the simplicity with which a child can view life. My family my family are all extremely proud of my achievements to date, and I believe that the best is yet to come. My vision is to run a first class company with a clear perspective of integrity, excellent service delivery, and professionalism. Our payoff line is that Eventful is creative, experienced, and professional, and we strive, God giving us the grace to be all this. Clients trust Clients trust us with significant amounts of money in order to provide a service that will enhance their event in a multifaceted manner. And we strive to give value for money. I believe that one's faith cannot be limited to where one worships, but must be pervasive, reflecting in one's relationship with people, lifestyle, and the manner and style of one's business. I ascribed every success Eventful has achieved over the past 5 years to God's hand being upon this company. I'm certain that the seeds I have sown have brought a legacy of success, and I'm only building on what's hard work. I have paid my tithe for as long as I can remember, and I faithfully tithe my company's profits also. The principles of God can never fail. I am confident that I am fulfilling the purpose for which I have been created by establishing and running this business, training and mentoring those who either come through my business or seek me as a mentor. We successfully ran a training program, So You Want to Be an Event Manager, in August 2007. This was well attended by over 30 people, including corporate affairs managers from banks and other companies, as well as upcoming and established event planners. Participants were all grateful for an opportunity to brainstorm and share challenges and issues faced in an emerging industry. We have combined the materials delivered at that training program into a manual, a step-by-step guide, a step-by-step guide for those who wish to pursue a career in event management. The entry barrier to the event management business is minimal, as no qualifications are actually required for you to call yourself an event manager. We have therefore decided to harness our experience and provide this manual to assist those coming after us. Why? If we all get better, the professional will standards will raise, and this can only be good for us all in the long run. I believe I am adding value, and I continue to seek for inspiration from the Holy Spirit for direction on what to do next to take the business to the next level. We are now venturing into the establishing and management of event venues. We are constantly challenged in our business by the dearth of venues in Lagos when organizing events for our clients. We have decided that this is the next phase to conquer, an opportunity to acquire prime land and begin this project came up recently. I believe that the God that has brought me this far will not leave me nor forsake me, no matter how incredulous the boggling sums of money that is required for this new vision may seem. I pray my story has encouraged someone to go out and do it, even if you are afraid. Major updates between 2006 and 2014. Major updates. I believe the most significant update to our business since the last edition of Girl Entrepreneur is the fact that we have expanded our event planning business to include venue management. It was apparent to me very early in the business that there was a dearth of suitable high quality event venues in Lagos, and clearly the quality of the venues have have an impact on the success of our events. I felt it was an obvious extension of the business, and I approached various financial institutions and joint venture companies to see how we could raise money to build our own event venues. The costs were enormous, and I recall someone mentioning to me that I was now going into real estate business and not a diversification of the event business. If I were to take on such a huge financial commitment, I, however, was not deterred and continued to look for ways to achieve my dreams. Fortunately, two opportunities then came my way. The Lagos state government had renovated the banquet hall of City Hall, and I sent in a proposal for our company to be the venue manager. We're extremely fortunate that Governor Fashola is an advocate of public and private partnership and wanted the hall to be run by a professional firm. We were appointed as the venue managers in March 2010, and we have been managing this venue successfully since then. It has given us a platform to bring our professionalism to bear on the logistics required for the events held at City Hall. In December 2010, we were invited to set up an event center as a joint venture on a huge expanse of land in Victoria Island. The property was on 28,000 square meters, which meant that the greatest challenge our clients face at most venues, parking, would be eliminated. It was a it was a no-brainer. We took the opportunity even though it was for a short term, as the property was eventually to be developed into a multi-use facility. I'm immensely grateful that I decided to take the risks associated with investments, as it enabled us to create a beststroke venue that further strengthened our brand. Given that this was a temporary arrangement, we obviously could not put up a permanent structure, but we certainly did not want just another tent. We wanted a venue befitting of the brand we had established, and so ventured into container architecture, which means that the building was constructed by assembling containers for the main structure, giving the impression of a finished building instead, and allowing us to create catering services separate from the main hall. This was a much more expensive route to take than to put up a tent, but for us, it was about setting standards in the event industry and ensuring we provide quality services for our clients. Harbour Point was extremely well received by the public and became the preferred venue for many corporate organizations and individuals in the course of the 3 years that it was in operation. We are in the process of concluding another 3-year term at a location in Lekki, which by God's grace will be operational by the fourth quarter of 2014. This business model has proven itself both in terms of profitability and efficiency, and we hope to continue to replicate it. Naturally, we have been inundated with requests to manage other venues all over the country, but have been very selective about who we partner with in order to ensure we preserve the integrity of our brand. We are now the venue manager of the MMD Conference Center in Ikoyi, as well as the Hall of Lagos Preparatory School, Ikoyi, and we expect to continue to expand these lines of business over the next few years. Another significant update is that in 2011, I received international recognition for my foray in entrepreneurship. I was a recipient of the prestigious International Women Entrepreneur Challenge (IWEC) Award, an initiative of the Chambers of Commerce of Barcelona, Manhattan, and India. I received the award in New York, and at that event was selected as one of only two of the awardees to attend the Advanced Management Program of IESC, a first-class international business school in Barcelona, on a partial scholarship. I undertook the course in 2011 and 2013. 2012/2013, and this was an extremely enriching and fulfilling experience. I developed an extensive global network with professionals and entrepreneurs from all sectors of commerce and was able to retool myself in terms of management and entrepreneurial skills. This has brought a fresh and dynamic perspective into the business as I try to incorporate the new insights I have gained from the program. Lastly, in October 2012, we celebrated 10 years of operation as a business. This was a significant milestone as we commemorated it with a seminar on entrepreneurship held at Harbour Point. This was extremely well received by our clients and friends, and the video recording of the proceedings, which included participation by the likes of Governor Baba Tunde Fashola, Aliko Dangote, Dr. Suleiman, BC Onosoya, Gboli Otibodu, and Folusho Philip